Marcus Webb grabs his big gulp cup and dumps the entire 32 ounces of ice-cold cola directly over the black woman's head.
She's my wife.
Look at this one, thinking she belongs here. The maid's entrance is around back, sweetheart. The sticky brown liquid cascades down her face, soaking through her $3,000 cashmere coat, plastering her hair against her skull, dripping onto the pristine marble floor of Sterling Tech Innovations. The other receptionists explode with laughter. 10 minutes from now, the company owner will walk through those glass doors. He will see what they have done to this woman, and he will say 3 words that will destroy their entire world. That's my wife. Before we continue, if you love stories about karma and justice, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Watch this story until the very end because the revenge is absolutely incredible. Comment below and tell us which city you are watching from. We want to see how far this story travels around the world. Now let us go back to the beginning. Maya Richardson pushed through the glass doors of Sterling Tech Innovations at exactly 9:43 on a Tuesday morning. She was carrying a small gift bag in one hand and checking her phone with the other. 7 years married today. Daniel had texted her that morning, "Can't wait to see you at lunch. Love you more than code." She had laughed at that. Her husband, the tech billionaire, still made jokes like a college freshman. The lobby stretched before her, all marble and glass and chrome. She had been here maybe 3 times in 7 years. Daniel preferred to keep work and home separate, and she respected that. Her own law firm operated the same way. But today was special. Today she wanted to surprise him. She never made it past the reception desk. "Can I help you?" The voice came from a young white man behind the curved reception counter. Late 20s, sandy blonde hair, wearing a suit that was slightly too tight in the shoulders. His name tag read Marcus Webb. His expression read contempt. Maya smiled politely. "Good morning. I'm here to see Daniel Crawford. Could you point me toward the executive elevator?" Marcus leaned back in his chair. He looked her up and down, slowly, deliberately, the way you might examine something unpleasant on the bottom of your shoe. "The executive elevator," he repeated. "That's for executives and their scheduled guests. You got an appointment." "I don't need an appointment. I'm meeting my husband for lunch." A blonde woman to Marcus's left snorted. Her name tag said Brittany Cole. "Your husband." "Yes, Daniel Crawford." The lobby went quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Then Marcus started laughing. It was not a polite laugh, not a surprised laugh. It was the kind of laugh designed to humiliate. The kind that said, "You are absolutely ridiculous, and I want everyone in this room to know it." "Daniel Crawford," Marcus said, wiping his eyes. "You're telling me you're married to Daniel Crawford, the Daniel Crawford, the CEO and owner of this entire company?" "Yes, my name is Maya Richardson. I kept my maiden name professionally." "Uh-huh." Marcus exchanged a glance with Brittany. "And I'm married to Taylor Swift. She just likes her privacy." Brittany giggled. A third receptionist, a nervous-looking young man named Ryan Peters, joined in with an awkward chuckle. Maya felt the first warning sign. The slight tightening in her chest. The familiar sensation of being seen as something other than what she was. She had felt it before. Many times. In law school when professors called on her expecting failure. In courtrooms when opposing counsel underestimated her. In stores when security followed her through the aisles. She knew how to handle it. "I understand this might seem unusual," she said, keeping her voice calm and professional. "But if you could just call up to his office, his assistant Rebecca can verify who I am." "Rebecca's busy," Brittany said. "She doesn't have time to verify every random person who walks in off the street claiming to be somebody." "I'm not random. I'm his wife." "Sure you are, honey." Marcus stood up from his chair. He was taller than Maya by several inches, and he used every bit of that height to look down at her. "And I'm sure that coat is real Burberry too, right? Not something you picked up on Canal Street." Maya's hand went instinctively to her coat. It was real Burberry. Daniel had given it to her for Christmas 2 years ago. It had cost nearly $4,000. But that was not the point. The point was that this man had looked at her and immediately decided that nothing about her could possibly be authentic. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor," Maya said. "My supervisor's busy." "Then I'll wait." "You can wait outside. This lobby is for employees and scheduled guests only." "I'm not leaving until I speak with someone in management." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Something shifted in his expression. Something ugly. "You know what?" he said slowly. "I think I know what's happening here. I think you wandered into the wrong building. The cleaning company is next door. They probably have walk-in applications." Brittany covered her mouth, pretending to cough to hide her laughter. Maya felt her composure slip just slightly. "Excuse me." The cleaning company. You know, mops and buckets. That's more your speed, right? Or wait, maybe you're looking for the service entrance. That's around back, where the deliveries come in. I am a partner at Richardson and Associates. I am a graduate of Columbia Law School. I serve on the boards of 4 nonprofit organizations, and I am the wife of the man who signs your paycheck. Marcus slow clapped. 3 sarcastic claps that echoed through the marble lobby. Beautiful speech, very convincing. You practice that in the mirror. I want your name. You already have it. Marcus Webb. W-E-B-B. Feel free to file a complaint. I'm sure it'll go real far. Maya pulled out her phone and dialed Daniel's number. It went straight to voicemail. He was probably in a meeting phone on silent. Daniel, honey, I'm in the lobby. Something happened. Call me back when you get this. She hung up. Marcus was grinning. Honey, huh? He repeated mockingly. She's calling somebody honey. Who do you think it really is? Her parole officer? Her baby daddy? Ryan laughed nervously. Brittany did not bother to hide her amusement. Maya's hands were starting to shake. Not from fear, from rage. The kind of rage that builds up over a lifetime of moments exactly like this one. But she knew what would happen if she lost her temper. She had seen it play out 1,000 times. Black woman gets angry. Black woman raises her voice. Black woman becomes the aggressor, the threat, the problem. Everything she had actually experienced would be erased, replaced by a narrative about her behavior. So she swallowed the rage, pushed it down, kept her voice steady. I would like to use your restroom. To freshen up while I wait. Brittany shook her head slowly. Restrooms are for employees and scheduled guests only, company policy. You're denying me access to a bathroom. I'm telling you the policy. There's a McDonald's 2 blocks down. They have public facilities. This is outrageous. This is standard procedure. If you don't like it, you're welcome to leave. Maya looked around the lobby. A few other employees had stopped to watch the confrontation. None of them stepped forward. None of them spoke up. They just watched, some with curiosity, others with that particular discomfort that comes from witnessing something wrong and choosing not to intervene. I am going to stand right here, Maya said clearly, until my husband comes down or someone with authority speaks to me. I am not leaving. Marcus's grin widened. Suit yourself, but I'm warning you, lady. If you cause any more trouble, I'm calling security. I haven't caused any trouble. You've been harassing me since the moment I walked in. Harassing you, I asked if you had an appointment. That's my job. You called me a maid. You suggested I was here to clean toilets. You mocked my clothing. You implied I was lying about my identity. I asked reasonable questions based on reasonable observations. Reasonable observations. What observations? What about me made you think I was a maid? Marcus's eyes traveled over her deliberately. Call it intuition. The implication hung in the air like poison. Maya knew exactly what he meant. Every black person in America knew what he meant. It was the unspoken truth that shaped every interaction, every assumption, every snap judgment. She did not look like she belonged here. Not because of her clothes, which were expensive. Not because of her demeanor, which was professional. Not because of anything she had said or done. Because of her skin. That was the beginning and end of it. I want to file a formal complaint, Maya said. Go ahead. HR is on the 4th floor, but you'll need an appointment to see them, and you'll need to be a scheduled guest to use the elevator, so I guess you're stuck. Brittany and Ryan exchanged amused glances. They were enjoying this. 3 white employees tormenting a black woman who had no power in this situation, no recourse, no one to back her up. This was entertainment to them. Maya pulled out her phone again. Tried Daniel. Voicemail again. Tried Rebecca, his assistant. Straight to voicemail. Tried the main office line. Got an automated system that put her on hold. She was trapped. Completely trapped. In her own husband's building, surrounded by people who had decided she was worthless before she had even opened her mouth. Look, Marcus said, his voice taking on a tone of false reasonableness. I'm trying to be nice here. You obviously don't belong in this building. You obviously don't have any legitimate business here. Why don't you just leave before this gets any more embarrassing for you? I belong here more than you do. Is that so? My husband built this company from nothing. He started in a garage with 2 employees and turned it into a billion-dollar enterprise. And you, Marcus Webb, are a receptionist who peaked in high school and takes out his frustrations on people you think can't fight back. The words landed like a slap. Marcus's face went red. His jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. For a moment, Maya thought she had pushed too far. Thought he might actually swing at her. Instead, he smiled. a cold, ugly smile that did not reach his eyes. "You know what?" he said softly. "I was going to let security handle this, but you just made it personal." He picked up his big gulp cup, still half full of flat cola and melting ice. Maya saw it coming, saw the intention in his eyes, knew exactly what he was about to do. She did not run, did not flinch, did not give him the satisfaction of seeing her afraid. She stood her ground, and Marcus Webb dumped the entire 32 ounces of ice-cold soda directly over her head. The cold hit her first. Shocking, numbing cold that took her breath away. Then the sticky sweetness, soaking into her hair, running down her face, dripping from her chin onto her coat, her blouse, her shoes. The cup clattered to the marble floor empty. Brittany screamed with laughter. Actual screaming like this was the funniest thing she had ever seen. Ryan was doubled over, gasping for breath. Other employees in the lobby had their phones out now. Recording, always recording. Marcus stood in front of her, grinning triumphantly. "Oops," he said. "My hand slipped. Total accident. You all saw it, right? Complete accident." "Complete accident?" Ryan agreed, still laughing. "Totally accidental," Brittany added. Maya stood frozen, cola dripping from her hair, mascara running down her cheeks in brown streaks. Her $3,000 coat ruined, her silk blouse stained beyond repair, her dignity shattered in front of 24 witnesses. But she did not cry. She did not scream. She did not give them what they wanted. Instead, she wiped the soda from her eyes and looked directly at Marcus Webb. "You just made the worst mistake of your entire life," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, almost peaceful. It was the voice of someone who knew exactly what was coming next. Marcus laughed. "Sure I did. Now get out before I call security." "I'm not going anywhere." "Lady, you're standing in our lobby covered in soda making threats. You're about 30 seconds away from being arrested." "My husband is going to walk through that door." "Your husband?" Marcus rolled his eyes. "Right, your imaginary billionaire husband. And when he does, he's going to see what you did to me." "Can't wait." "And then he's going to destroy you, not because I asked him to, because that's the kind of man he is, the kind who doesn't tolerate cruelty, the kind who holds people accountable for their actions." Marcus stepped closer to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with the sour scent of the soda now soaking her clothes. "Let me explain something to you," he said quietly. "Daniel Crawford doesn't know you exist. Daniel Crawford wouldn't look twice at someone like you. Daniel Crawford is married to a woman who's been on magazine covers, who goes to galas with senators who could buy and sell you 1,000 times over. You are nothing. You are nobody, and in about 5 minutes, security is going to drag you out of this building, and nobody is ever going to think about you again." Maya held his gaze without flinching. "You have no idea who I am," she said, "but you're about to find out." The elevator doors opened at the far end of the lobby. Victor Hayes stepped out. Senior operations manager, white mid-40s wearing a company lanyard and a Bluetooth earpiece that never seemed to leave his ear. He had the stride of a man who enjoyed his small measure of authority. "What's going on here?" Marcus straightened up immediately. "Victor, thank God we have a situation." "I can see that." Victor's eyes traveled from Maya's soaked appearance to the puddle of cola on the floor to Marcus's empty cup. "Someone want to explain? This woman," Brittany jumped in eagerly, walked in off the street without an appointment. "She's been harassing us for 15 minutes, demanding to see Mr. Crawford, claiming to be his wife." "His wife?" Victor's eyebrows rose. "I know, crazy, right?" Victor turned to Maya. His expression was not sympathetic. "Ma'am, you're claiming to be married to Daniel Crawford. I am married to Daniel Crawford. We've been married for 7 years. I came here to surprise him for our anniversary lunch, and your employees have assaulted me." "Assaulted you?" "He poured a drink over my head." She pointed at Marcus. Victor glanced at Marcus. "That true?" Marcus shrugged. "It was an accident. My hand slipped. You know how it is." "See?" Victor turned back to Maya. "It was an accident. These things happen." "An accident?" "He deliberately picked up his cup and dumped it on me." "That's not what he said. That's not what these witnesses said. You're outnumbered here, ma'am." Maya felt the ground shifting beneath her. The narrative was already being written. Crazy woman walks into tech company, makes false claims, gets accidentally splashed, overreacts. It was so clean, so simple, so devastatingly effective. "I want to file a complaint," she said. "You can file whatever you want, but right now I need you to leave the premises." "I'm not leaving until I speak with my husband." "Ma'am, you don't have an appointment. You're causing a disturbance. Multiple employees have complained about your behavior. My behavior? They called me a maid. They suggested I was here to see my parole officer. They dumped soda on me. I heard there was an accident and you've been escalating the situation ever since. That's a lie. Ma'am, you're raising your voice. You're becoming aggressive. I'm becoming aggressive. I'm the victim here. That's a matter of perspective. Maya wanted to scream. She wanted to grab Victor Hayes by his stupid lanyard and shake him until he saw what was actually happening. But she knew better. She had spent her entire adult life navigating situations exactly like this one. Situations where the truth did not matter because the assumptions had already been made. Situations where her word was automatically worth less than the word of the people standing against her. Call upstairs, she said, forcing herself to speak calmly. Call Daniel's office. His assistant Rebecca knows me. She's planned our dinner parties. She's bought our anniversary gifts. She can verify who I am in 30 seconds. Victor made a show of checking his watch. Mr. Crawford is in transit. His office said no interruptions. Then we'll wait until he arrives. We won't wait for anything. You need to leave now. I'm not going anywhere. Victor's expression hardened. Ma'am, if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have to call security. Call them. Call the police too. Call whoever you want. I am not leaving this building until I speak with my husband. Your husband? Victor shook his head slowly. Lady, I've met Daniel Crawford's wife. I've seen her at company events. I've seen pictures of her in his office. And let me tell you something. He leaned in close. She doesn't look anything like you. The words hit Maya like a second splash of cold soda. There it was. The quiet part said out loud. She doesn't look like you, because Daniel Crawford's wife couldn't possibly be black, couldn't possibly have dark skin and natural hair and features that didn't fit the acceptable image of a billionaire's spouse. You're disgusting, Maya said quietly, and you're trespassing. Security. 2 guards emerged from a side corridor. Terrence Brooks, a black man in his early 30s wearing the Sterling Tech security uniform. Sandra Foster, a white woman with short hair and an expression that suggested she had no patience for anyone's problems. Victor began briefing them immediately. We have a trespasser here, walked in without authorization, making false claims about being connected to the CEO. She's become aggressive when asked to leave. I want her escorted off the premises. Terrence looked at Maya, really looked. His eyes traveled over her soaked coat, her ruined hair, the cola still dripping from her chin. Then he looked at the puddle on the floor, the empty cup, the phone still recording. Something crossed his face. Recognition. Doubt. A flicker of kinship between 2 black people caught in a situation that was all too familiar. Maybe we should call upstairs, he said quietly. Verify her story before we do anything. Sandra shook her head. Victor already tried. Mr. Crawford is unreachable. That was a lie. Victor had not called anyone, but Terrence did not know that. He hesitated. Maya could see him weighing the options, could see him calculating the cost of speaking up against the cost of staying silent. She knew that calculation. She had made it herself countless times. Speak up and face consequences. Stay silent and live with yourself. Terrence stayed silent. Ma'am, Sandra said, stepping forward, you need to come with us. I'm not going anywhere. My husband will be here any minute. We can't wait for that. You need to leave the premises now. Touch me and I'll sue this company into bankruptcy. Sandra paused. The threat of legal action always gave people pause. Victor stepped in. She's bluffing. She's nobody. Look at her. You think she can afford a lawyer? Maya almost laughed. She was a lawyer, a partner at one of the most successful firms in the city. She could afford an army of lawyers. But they would never believe that, because they had already decided who she was, what she deserved. I graduated from Columbia Law School, Maya said. Top of my class. I passed the bar on my first try. I have argued cases in front of the Supreme Court. I have more legal expertise in my little finger than everyone in this lobby combined. So please, please give me an excuse to sue. Silence. For just a moment, Tanya and uncertainty flickered across their faces. Then Marcus laughed. Columbia Law School. Sure, and I went to Harvard. The moment broke. The uncertainty vanished. They were back to disbelieving everything she said simply because she was the one saying it. Brittany picked up the phone on her desk. I'm calling the police. We have a trespasser who's making threats. I haven't threatened anyone. You just said you'd sue us into bankruptcy. That's a threat. That's a statement of legal intent. Same thing. Brittany dialed. Yes, hello. I need police at Sterling Tech Innovations, 240 West 53rd. We have a trespasser who's become violent." "I'm not violent. I haven't touched anyone." "She's screaming at me right now. Please, send someone quickly." Maya forced herself to stop yelling, forced herself to take a breath, forced herself to remember that everything she did from this moment forward would be used against her. The police were coming. They were going to arrest her, in her husband's building, for the crime of being black in the wrong place. She had about 10 minutes before they arrived. Maybe less. 10 minutes to prove who she was, to find someone who would listen, to avoid the humiliation of being handcuffed and dragged out in front of all these people with their phones recording. She pulled out her phone again, tried Daniel, voicemail, tried Rebecca, voicemail, tried the main line, hold music. She was running out of options. "Please," she said, and she hated how desperate her voice sounded. "Just let me show you my ID, my driver's license, something." "Your ID says Maya Richardson," Marcus pointed out. "Not Maya Crawford. Doesn't prove anything." "Because I kept my maiden name, how many times do I have to explain that?" "You can explain it all you want. Doesn't make it true." "There are pictures of me in Daniel's office, on his desk, on the wall." "Anyone could find pictures online, Photoshop something, print it out." "This is insane. This is absolutely insane." "What's insane is you thinking you could walk in here and pretend to be somebody you're not." Maya closed her eyes, took a breath, tried to center herself. She had survived worse than this. She had faced racism and sexism and every other kind of discrimination the world could throw at her. She had built a career despite people like Marcus Webb trying to tear her down at every opportunity. She would survive this too. But God, it was exhausting. Exhausting to constantly have to prove her right to exist in spaces. Exhausting to be treated as guilty until proven innocent. Exhausting to know that no matter what she accomplished, no matter how successful she became, there would always be people who looked at her and saw nothing but her skin color. Jennifer Chang stood near the elevator watching everything unfold. She was 32, Asian American, a mid-level marketing manager who had come down for her morning coffee and stumbled into this nightmare. She had seen Marcus pour the drink, had heard the things he said, had watched Victor and the others close ranks around the lie. She knew something terrible was happening, and she was trying to decide if she had the courage to do anything about it. The cost of speaking up was high. Marcus had friends in management. Brittany was dating someone in HR. Victor controlled performance reviews for half the office. If Jennifer contradicted their story, there would be consequences. But the cost of staying silent was high too, because that woman standing in the middle of the lobby, soaked and humiliated and alone, was telling the truth. Jennifer was sure of it. Something about the specific details she knew, the confidence underneath her desperation, the wedding ring on her finger that nobody seemed to have noticed. That woman was who she said she was, and Jennifer was watching her get railroaded by a group of people who had decided she did not deserve the benefit of the doubt. She took a deep breath, stepped forward. "Wait." Everyone turned to look at her. "I think we should double-check," Jennifer said. Her voice was smaller than she wanted it to be. "She seems really certain. Maybe we should at least try to verify before we do anything drastic." Brittany rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Jennifer, don't be naive." "I'm not being naive. I'm being careful. If she's really Mr. Crawford's wife and we call the police on her and she gets arrested in our lobby..." "She's not his wife. Look at her." "I am looking at her, and I see someone who's been assaulted and humiliated and is still standing here insisting she's telling the truth. Most people would have left by now. Most people would have given up. She hasn't. Doesn't that tell you something?" "It tells me she's crazy. Or it tells you she's exactly who she says she is." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Brittany's face. Just for a second. Then it was gone. "Jennifer," Victor said firmly, "this doesn't concern you. Go back to your desk." "But now..." Jennifer looked at Maya, met her eyes, saw the desperate hope there. Then she looked at Victor, at Marcus, at the phone still recording, at the security guards waiting to drag Maya out. The social cost was too high. "I'm sorry," Jennifer whispered. She stepped back, retreated to the elevator, hit the button for her floor. The doors open. She stepped inside, turned to face the lobby one last time. Maya was watching her. The hope in her eyes had died. The doors closed. Jennifer was gone. Maya was alone again. Terrence Brooks felt sick. He had watched the whole thing happen, had seen Marcus Webb pour that drink with deliberate malice, had heard the racist comments, the mockery, the cruelty, and he had done nothing. He was wearing a Sterling Tech uniform. He had a mortgage, a daughter in private school, a promotion he had been working toward for 2 years. Those were the excuses he was telling himself. But underneath the excuses was a simpler truth. He was afraid. Afraid of what would happen if he spoke up. Afraid of losing his job. Afraid of being labeled a troublemaker, of being blackballed, of ending up in the same position as the woman he was failing to protect. So he stayed silent, and with every second that passed, his silence felt heavier. Mr. Crawford's car just pulled into the executive lot. The radio on Sandra's belt crackled. Everyone in the lobby went still. Victor frowned. He wasn't supposed to be in until 11. Traffic must have been lighter than expected, the voice on the radio said. Maya's face transformed. The exhaustion, the humiliation, the rage, all of it vanished, replaced by something that looked almost like peace. "He's here," she said softly. Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. "Perfect timing. Now you can get rejected by the man himself." Through the glass doors, Maya could see a black Bentley pulling into the spot marked Reserved, D. Crawford. The driver's side door opened. Italian leather shoes hit the pavement. "You should run," Maya said quietly. "While you still can." Nobody moved. The glass doors swung open, and Daniel Crawford walked into the lobby of Sterling Tech Innovations. He was checking his phone, barely paying attention to his surroundings. 42 years old, white, wearing a charcoal gray suit that had been tailored specifically for him in Milan. He moved with the easy confidence of a man who had built something extraordinary and knew his own worth. He looked up from his phone. He saw the crowd. 30 employees standing around like spectators at a show. He saw the phones pointed at the center of the lobby. He saw Victor and 2 security guards and 3 receptionists all focused on something he could not quite see. Then the crowd shifted, and Daniel Crawford saw his wife. Standing in the middle of his lobby, covered in brown liquid, hair plastered to her head, coat ruined, makeup running down her face, surrounded by security guards who looked ready to drag her away. For 1 second, Daniel did not move. Then his face transformed. The easy confidence vanished. The casual energy evaporated. In its place was something cold, something controlled, something absolutely terrifying. "What the hell is going on here?" His voice was not loud. He did not shout. He did not need to. Every single person in that lobby felt the temperature drop 10 degrees. Victor stepped forward, his voice shifting instantly from authoritative to obsequious. "Mr. Crawford, sir, we have the situation here. This woman walked in without an appointment. She claims to be..." Daniel was not listening. He was already moving, crossing the lobby in long, purposeful strides, his eyes locked on Maya's face, taking in every detail, the soda in her hair, the stains on her coat, the way her hands were trembling. The crowd parted for him like water. He stopped in front of his wife. His hands went to her shoulders, gentle despite the fury radiating from every line of his body. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "What happened?" Maya's composure finally broke. After everything she had endured, after holding herself together through every insult and indignity, the presence of someone who actually believed her shattered her defenses. "Daniel," she whispered, and her voice cracked. He pulled her close, held her tight, ignored the soda that was soaking into his $10,000 suit. "I've got you," he said. "I've got you." The lobby was silent. Absolutely silent. Marcus Webb's face had gone white. Literally white, like every drop of blood had drained out of it at once. Brittany's mouth was hanging open. Ryan looked like he might actually faint. Victor stood frozen. The words of explanation he had been preparing dying on his lips. Daniel released Maya just enough to look at her face, to see the damage they had done. Then he turned, and he looked at the crowd. "Someone," he said, and his voice was quiet and cold and deadly, "is going to explain what happened to my wife, right now." Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Nobody wanted to be the first. Finally, Victor cleared his throat. "Sir, I can explain. There was a misunderstanding. Your wife didn't identify herself properly, and my team was simply following standard protocol. Your team," Daniel cut him off, "is currently surrounded by security cameras. Every inch of this lobby is recorded in high definition. I can pull the footage from the last hour in about 60 seconds. So before you continue with whatever explanation you've prepared, I want you to think very carefully about whether it matches what I'm about to see." Victor's mouth snapped shut. Daniel's eyes swept across the lobby. They landed on Marcus, still holding the empty big gulp cup. On Brittany, whose smirk had frozen into a mask of terror. On Ryan, who was actively backing toward the emergency exit. "That cup, Tal," Daniel said, pointing at Marcus. "That's yours." Marcus could barely speak. Yes, sir." "And what was in it?" "Cola, sir." "And where is that cola now?" Marcus did not answer. He did not have to. The evidence was dripping from Maya's chin. Daniel turned back to his wife. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." Maya told him. She told him about walking through the doors, about Marcus's immediate hostility, about Brittany's condescension and Ryan's nervous laughter, about the jokes about maids and cleaning services, about being denied access to a bathroom, about Victor refusing to verify her identity, about the police being called, about the security guards preparing to remove her. She told him everything while 30 employees stood in horrified silence watching their careers dissolve in real time. When she finished, Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. "Cancel the police call, he said to whoever answered. "There's no trespasser. There never was." He hung up, dialed another number. "Rebecca, clear my schedule. All of it. Then get Patricia from HR, Stephen from legal, and every department head in the building to the main conference room in 10 minutes. Non-negotiable." He hung up again. Then he looked at Marcus Webb. "You," Daniel said. "Your name." Marcus Webb, sir." "Marcus Webb." Daniel's voice was soft, almost gentle. It was somehow more terrifying than if he had been screaming. "You threw a drink on a woman in my lobby." "It was an accident, sir. My hand slipped. I swear." "Stop. Just stop." Daniel held up his hand. "I haven't seen the footage yet, but my wife told me what you said before you threw that drink. You called her a maid. You suggested she was here to see her parole officer. You told her she didn't belong here." Marcus said nothing. "Did you say those things?" Silence. "Did you say those things?" I might have made some comments that could be interpreted as, "Yes or no?" Marcus's voice came out as a whisper. "Yes." "And then you threw a drink on her." "My hand." "If you say slipped one more time, I'm going to have you arrested for assault. Because that's what this was. Assault, caught on camera, with 30 witnesses. So I suggest you stop lying and start thinking about how you're going to explain this to the police when I decide to press charges." Marcus looked like he might vomit. Daniel turned to Brittany. "You denied my wife access to a bathroom." Brittany's voice was barely audible. "Company policy, sir." "There is no such policy. I wrote the employee handbook myself. Restrooms are available to all visitors during business hours. You made that up. Why? No answer. I asked you a question. I don't know, sir. I didn't believe she was who she said she was." "Why not?" "Because..." Brittany trailed off. "Because what?" "Because she's black. Because you couldn't imagine a black woman being married to me. Is that it?" Brittany started crying. "I didn't mean... I never thought..." "That's exactly the problem. You didn't think. None of you did. You saw a black woman in my lobby, and you decided without evidence, without verification, without basic human decency that she didn't belong here, that she was a liar, that she deserved to be humiliated." Daniel's voice rose for the first time. "My wife graduated from Columbia Law School. She is a partner at one of the most successful firms in this city. She has argued cases in front of the Supreme Court. She has accomplished more in her career than everyone in this lobby combined. And you treated her like dirt because of the color of her skin." He turned to Victor. You were supposed to be the adult in the room. You were supposed to investigate, to verify, to make sure the right thing was done. Instead, you took their word for it. You called security. You called the police. You were going to have my wife arrested." "Why?" Victor's voice cracked. "Sir, she didn't have proper identification. She told you her name. She told you to call my office. She told you she was my wife. Did you make even one attempt to verify that I believed my team?" "You believed them. Over her? Why?" Victor had no answer. Daniel looked at the crowd, at the phones that had been recording his wife's humiliation and were now recording the aftermath. "Everyone put your phones away, now!" The phones disappeared. "Good. Now listen carefully, because I'm only going to say this once." He put his arm around Maya's shoulders. "What happened here today is a perfect example of how discrimination works. It's not just about hate. It's about assumptions. It's about looking at someone and deciding based on nothing but their appearance that they don't belong, that they must be lying, that they deserve to be treated with suspicion and hostility and cruelty." He paused. "My wife did nothing wrong today. She walked into this building expecting to be treated like a human being. Instead, she was mocked, humiliated, assaulted, nearly arrested, because some of you decided that a black woman in a nice coat couldn't possibly be who she said she was." His voice hardened. "That ends now, today. Every person involved in what happened here is going to face consequences, Real consequences, not a slap on the wrist. Not a sensitivity training seminar, actual career-ending consequences. He pointed at Marcus. You're fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you to your desk to collect your personal belongings. You have 30 minutes. If you're not out of this building by then, you'll be arrested for trespassing. Marcus made a sound like a wounded animal. Daniel pointed at Brittany. You're fired too, same terms. Brittany collapsed into sobs. Daniel pointed at Ryan. You're fired. You laughed. You went along with it. That makes you complicit. Ryan actually did vomit, right there on the marble floor. Daniel turned to Victor. You're suspended pending investigation. Based on what I've heard, I expect that investigation to result in your termination, but I want to see the footage first. I want to know exactly how badly you failed today. Victor nodded mutely. Daniel looked at Sandra. You tried to physically remove my wife from this building. Sir, I was following orders. Following orders, right. We'll discuss your future with the company after I've reviewed everything. Finally, Daniel turned to Terrence, the black security guard who had stayed silent, who had suspected the truth and said nothing, who had watched a woman who looked like his own sister being humiliated and had not intervened. You knew something was wrong, Daniel said quietly. Terrence could not meet his eyes. Yes, sir. Why didn't you say anything? For a long moment, Terrence did not answer. Then he spoke, and his voice was raw with shame. Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my job. Afraid of being labeled a troublemaker. Afraid of ending up like her. He gestured at Maya. I told myself it wasn't my place. Told myself someone else would step up. Told myself it wasn't worth the risk. He finally looked up. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Maya looked at him. This man who could have helped her, who had chosen not to. She saw the genuine remorse in his eyes. The shame that went deeper than fear of losing his job. I forgive you, she said softly, but you have to do better. We all have to do better. Terrence nodded, tears streaming down his face. Daniel addressed the lobby one final time. What happened today is going to change this company, not just with firings and suspensions, with policy, with training, with culture. I built Sterling Tech to be a place where innovation and integrity go hand in hand. Today I learned that I failed. That somewhere along the way I created an environment where people like Marcus Webb felt comfortable treating another human being like garbage. He paused. That failure is mine, but fixing it is going to be everyone's job, because if this can happen to my wife, it can happen to anyone, and I will not run a company where this is acceptable. He took Maya's hand. Right now, I'm taking my wife upstairs. She's going to clean up. She's going to change clothes. And then we're going to have the anniversary lunch we planned because she deserves something good after what she's been through today. They started walking toward the executive elevator. Then Daniel stopped, turned back. One more thing. Every person in this lobby had a chance to do the right thing today. Some of you chose cruelty, some of you chose cowardice, some of you chose to stand by and watch. His eyes found Jennifer Chang, who had emerged from the elevator just in time to hear his final words. And one of you tried to speak up, tried to stop this, even though it was hard, even though it was risky. Jennifer's breath caught in her throat. That person knows who they are. I'd like to speak with them later, because that's the kind of person I want building the future of this company. The elevator doors opened. Daniel and Maya stepped inside. Just before the doors closed, Maya turned to look at the lobby one last time. At Marcus being escorted toward his desk by security. At Brittany sobbing into her hands. At Victor standing frozen, his career in ruins. At all the people who had watched her suffer and done nothing. She did not gloat, did not sneer, did not give them the satisfaction of seeing her triumphant. She simply stood tall, held her husband's hand, and let the doors close on the worst morning of her life. It was over, but the consequences were just beginning. In the lobby below, 30 employees stood in stunned silence processing what they had just witnessed. The security team was escorting Marcus Webb toward his desk. He was crying now. Actually crying, the tough guy facade completely shattered. Brittany Cole had slumped to the floor behind the reception desk, her sobs echoing through the marble space. Ryan Peters had disappeared into the bathroom to clean himself up. Victor Hayes stood exactly where Daniel had left him, staring at nothing, contemplating the ruins of his career. And Jennifer Chang stood near the elevator, trembling slightly, replaying Daniel's words in her mind. That person knows who they are. I'd like to speak with them later. She had tried to help. For about 30 seconds she had tried. It had not been enough. But it had been noticed. Maybe she thought that was how change started. Not with grand gestures, but with small moments of courage, with people who tried even when trying was hard. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders. Then she walked to the reception desk, grabbed some paper towels, and started cleaning up the soda that was still pooled on the marble floor. It was not much, but it was something, and sometimes something is where everything begins. The elevator doors closed behind them, and Maya finally allowed herself to breathe. Daniel held her close, his hand stroking her hair despite the sticky residue of cola that clung to every strand. He did not care about his suit, did not care about the stains spreading across the expensive fabric. He only cared about her. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there." Maya pressed her face against his chest. "You came. That's what matters." "I should have been there from the beginning. If I had just met you in the lobby like we planned." "You didn't know? How could you have known?" The elevator climbed toward the executive floor. 47 stories. 47 stories of silence between them, broken only by Maya's shaky breathing. "I want to burn this building down," Daniel said quietly. Maya pulled back to look at his face. His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. His eyes were dark with fury. "Don't," she said. "Don't let them turn you into something you're not. They hurt you. In my building. My employees hurt you. And you're going to hold them accountable. That's enough." "It's not enough. It will never be enough." The elevator reached the 47th floor. The doors opened onto the executive suite, all glass and chrome and soft lighting. Rebecca Chen, Daniel's assistant, was waiting for them. Her face went pale when she saw Maya. "Oh my God, Mrs. Crawford, what happened?" "Don't call me that," Maya said automatically. Then she caught herself. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." "It's okay." Rebecca was already moving, guiding Maya toward the private bathroom adjacent to Daniel's office. "I have spare clothes in the closet. Emergency set. We'll get you cleaned up." Daniel's hand caught Maya's arm. "I have to go to the conference room. The department heads are waiting, but I can stay if you need me." Maya shook her head. "Go, do what you have to do. I'll be fine." "Are you sure?" "I've been handling worse than this my whole life. I can handle a shower." She meant it as a joke. It did not land as one. Daniel kissed her forehead. "I love you, more than anything." "I know. Now go fire some people." He almost smiled. Almost. Then he was gone, striding down the hallway toward the conference room where 30 executives were about to learn exactly what had happened in the lobby of Sterling Tech Innovations. 10:23 in the morning. The main conference room occupied the corner of the 47th floor, its glass walls offering a panoramic view of Manhattan. On a normal day, the executives who gathered here would spend their meetings half distracted by the skyline, mentally calculating real estate values and market projections. Today, no one was looking at the view. Patricia Morrison, head of human resources, sat at Daniel's right hand. 62 years old, black, wearing a navy blue suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She had been with Sterling Tech since the beginning, had watched Daniel build it from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire. She had also watched over the years as the company grew too fast, as corners were cut, as people were hired for their skills without sufficient attention to their character. Today, those chickens were coming home to roost. Stephen Walsh, general counsel, sat at Daniel's left. 55, white, with the kind of silver fox gravitas that played well in courtrooms. He had his laptop open and was already taking notes, anticipating the legal ramifications of whatever was about to unfold. Around the table sat the rest of the leadership team: Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Vice Presidents of Marketing, Sales, Product Development, Customer Relations. 30 people in total representing every major function of the company, all of them looking at Daniel with varying degrees of confusion and concern. He had not told them why they were here, just that it was urgent, non-negotiable. Daniel stood at the head of the table. He did not sit. Sitting would suggest this was a normal meeting. This was not a normal meeting. 43 minutes ago, he began, my wife walked into the lobby of this building. Murmurs around the table. Several people exchanged glances. She was coming to surprise me for our anniversary lunch. Instead of being greeted professionally, she was harassed, mocked, and assaulted by 3 members of our reception staff. The murmurs stopped. One of them poured a drink over her head, called her a maid, suggested she was here to see her parole officer. When she tried to identify herself, they laughed at her. When she asked to use the restroom, they refused. When she asked to speak with management, they called security. When security arrived, they prepared to forcibly remove her from the building. When that wasn't fast enough, they called the police. Absolute silence. My wife spent 35 minutes in our lobby being treated like a criminal, being humiliated, being photographed, and recorded by employees who thought her suffering was entertainment, and not one person, not one, stepped forward to help her. Patricia Morrison's face had gone hard as stone. Stephen Walsh's pen had stopped moving. I want to be very clear about something, Daniel continued. This isn't just about my wife. This is about who we are as a company, what we tolerate, what we've become. He pressed a button on the conference table. The large screen at the end of the room flickered to life. Security footage. The timestamp read 9:43 a.m. The executives watched in growing horror as Maya walked through the lobby doors, as Marcus Webb approached her with obvious hostility, as Brittany Cole and Ryan Peters joined in the mockery, as the jokes escalated, as the bathroom was denied, as the soda was thrown. Several people gasped audibly when the cola cascaded over Maya's head. One executive, Sandra Chen, VP of Customer Relations, started crying. The footage continued. Victor Hayes arriving, taking Marcus's side without investigation, calling security, the near removal, the police call, and then Daniel walking in, seeing his wife, the confrontation that followed. When the screen went dark, no one spoke for a full 30 seconds. Patricia Morrison broke the silence. Names. I want every name involved in this. Marcus Webb, Brittany Cole, Ryan Peters, Daniel said. Already terminated, being escorted out as we speak. What about Victor Hayes? Suspended pending investigation. Based on what I saw, I expect termination to follow. The security guards. Sandra Foster is on administrative leave. Terrence Brooks. Daniel paused. That's more complicated. How so? He knew something was wrong. I could see it in his face. He suggested verifying Maya's identity before taking action. His partner shut him down, and he didn't push back. So he stayed silent. Yes. That's still complicity. I know, but there's a difference between someone who actively participates in cruelty and someone who fails to stop it out of fear. I'm not saying he shouldn't face consequences. I'm saying the consequences should be proportional. Patricia nodded slowly. We'll discuss it. Stephen Walsh cleared his throat. Daniel, I have to ask, is Maya planning to pursue legal action? Against the company, no. She made that clear. She doesn't want to sue us into oblivion. She wants us to do better. That's remarkably generous given what happened. That's who she is. She spent her entire career fighting for justice. She doesn't want revenge. She wants change. What kind of change? Daniel looked around the table, at the faces of the people who ran his company, people he trusted, people who had let him down. Everything, he said. Everything changes. 10:41 in the morning. In the private bathroom adjoining Daniel's office, Maya stood under the shower and let the hot water wash away the sticky residue of her humiliation. Rebecca had laid out fresh clothes on the counter. A simple black dress, elegant but understated. Underwear still in the packaging. Rebecca kept emergency supplies for situations exactly like this, though nothing like this had ever actually happened before. Shoes that were close to Maya's size pulled from the company's product closet. The coat was ruined beyond repair. Rebecca had already disposed of it along with the stained blouse and the skirt that had been splashed with cola. Maya watched the brown water swirl down the drain and tried not to think about what had just happened. But the thoughts came anyway. The laughter. The contempt. The way Marcus Webb had looked at her like she was something he had scraped off his shoe. The word he had used. Maid. As if the worst thing a person could be was someone who cleaned houses for a living. The assumptions behind everything. That her coat must be fake. That her jewelry must be costume, that her presence in that building must be some kind of mistake, because women who looked like her didn't belong in places like this. Maya had heard variations of that message her entire life. In law school, where professors expressed surprise at her intelligence. In courtrooms where opposing counsel underestimated her until she destroyed them on cross-examination. In high-end stores where security followed her through the aisles, despite the fact that she could buy everything in the building without checking her bank balance. She had learned to let it roll off her, to maintain her composure, to prove them wrong through excellence. But today had been different. Today she had been completely powerless. Today all her accomplishments and credentials and achievements had meant nothing. Today she had been reduced to nothing more than a black woman in the wrong place. And it hurt. God, it hurt. The tears came then. Silent tears that mixed with the shower water and disappeared down the drain. Tears she would never let anyone else see. She was Maya Richardson, partner at one of the most successful law firms in the city, board member of 4 nonprofits, wife of a billionaire, woman who had argued before the Supreme Court and won. She was also a woman who had just been assaulted in her husband's building and had no power to stop it. Both things were true. Both things had always been true. And that was the part that hurt the most. 11:03 in the morning. The conference room had become a war room. Patricia Morrison had taken over her legal pad filled with notes, her expression the kind of cold fury that made people nervous. She had built the HR department of Sterling Tech from the ground up, and she took what had happened in that lobby as a personal failure. "We need to talk about the systemic issues here," she said. "This didn't happen in a vacuum. Marcus Webb didn't wake up this morning and decide to become a racist. This behavior was tolerated, enabled, maybe even encouraged." "How?" Daniel asked. "When's the last time we did comprehensive bias training?" "We have an online module. All employees are required to complete it annually." "An online module?" Patricia's voice dripped with contempt. "A 30-minute slideshow that people click through while checking their email. That's not training. That's checkbox compliance." "What would you suggest instead?" "Real training, in-person, interactive, led by professionals who specialize in this work, not once a year quarterly, with assessments, with accountability." "Done." "We also need to look at hiring practices. How did Marcus Webb get through the interview process? What red flags did we miss? Who approved his hire and why?" Daniel turned to Karen Mitchell, the VP of Talent Acquisition. Karen looked pale. "I'll pull his file, review the entire hiring process, see what went wrong. Do the same for Brittany Cole and Ryan Peters. I want to understand how 3 people with these attitudes ended up working at the same reception desk." "Yes, sir," Patricia continued. "We need an anonymous reporting system, a real one, not an email address that goes to HR, an independent third party that employees can contact without fear of retaliation." "Agreed." "And we need to look at the culture of the lobby specifically. Reception is the first point of contact for everyone who enters this building. If that's where we're failing, we need to understand why." Stephen Walsh spoke up. "From a legal perspective, we should document everything. Every action we take, every policy we implement, every training we conduct. If this ever goes to court—" "It won't," Daniel said. "Maya doesn't want to sue." "With respect, sir, it might not be up to Maya. The employees we're terminating could file wrongful termination suits. They could claim discrimination. They could argue that they were made scapegoats for institutional problems." "They poured a drink on my wife's head and called her a maid. On camera. And their lawyers will argue that the punishment was disproportionate, that other employees have committed similar offenses and received lesser consequences, that they were singled out because of who the victim happened to be married to." Daniel's jaw tightened. "So what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we do this by the book. Every step documented, every decision justified, every policy applied consistently. We're not just punishing 3 people. We're establishing a precedent for how this company handles discrimination going forward." "Fine. Document everything, but those 3 are still gone by the end of the day." "Understood." 11:28 in the morning. Maya emerged from Daniel's private office dressed in the clothes Rebecca had provided. Her hair was still damp but styled. Her makeup had been replaced from the emergency kit in the bathroom. She looked almost normal. Almost. The conference room doors were glass. She could see Daniel inside, surrounded by his leadership team, clearly in the middle of an intense discussion. She did not interrupt. Instead, she walked to the small seating area outside the conference room and sat down. Rebecca brought her coffee. She accepted it with a grateful nod. Through the glass, she watched her husband take charge, watched him hold people accountable, watched him do exactly what he had promised. She should have felt vindicated, satisfied, triumphant. Instead, she just felt tired. Tired of being strong. Tired of having to prove herself. Tired of living in a world where something like this could happen in the first place. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Saw something on Twitter about an incident at Daniel's company. You okay?" Maya's blood ran cold. She opened Twitter, searched for Sterling Tech. The video was everywhere. Someone had posted the footage of Marcus Webb pouring the drink on her head. It had been viewed over 200,000 times in less than an hour. The comments were a mixture of outrage and ugliness. "This is disgusting. Hope they fire everyone involved." "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. She should have just left." Another Karen getting what she deserves. "This is America. Black people don't belong in places like this." Maya felt sick. The world was watching her humiliation. Millions of people would see her at her most vulnerable, covered in soda, shaking with rage and fear. They would analyze her every expression, Judge her every word. Decide whether she deserved what happened to her based on nothing more than a 30-second clip. She was no longer Maya Richardson. She was content. She was a news story. She was a symbol, and she had no control over any of it. 11:47 in the morning. Daniel's phone buzzed in the middle of the meeting. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and excused himself. "What is it?" "The video's gone viral," Rebecca said quietly. "It's all over social media. The news outlets are starting to pick it up." "What video?" "Someone in the lobby recorded Marcus throwing the drink, posted it online. It's everywhere." Daniel felt his stomach drop. "Maya?" "She's in the waiting area. She saw it." He was out of the conference room before Rebecca finished speaking. Maya was sitting in one of the leather chairs, phone in her hand, face ashen. She looked up when Daniel approached. "Everyone knows," she said quietly. "Everyone saw." Daniel sat down beside her, took her hand. "I'm sorry." "It's not your fault." "I should have secured the footage. Should have made sure no one could You can't control what people do with their phones. You can't control the internet." She laughed bitterly. "You can't control anything, really. That's what today taught me. What do you want to do?" "I don't know. I don't know anything anymore." Daniel squeezed her hand. "We can make a statement. Get ahead of the story. Control the narrative." "Control the narrative?" Maya shook her head. "Daniel, there is no controlling this. The video is out there. People will see what they want to see. Some will support me. Some will tear me apart. Nothing I say or do will change that." "Then what do? We live with it, like we live with everything else." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the windows, Manhattan gleamed in the midday sun. A city of 8 million people, many of whom were now watching Maya Richardson's worst moment on a loop. "I love you," Daniel said. "I know. This doesn't define you. Doesn't it? For the rest of my life, this is what people will remember. The black woman who got a drink thrown on her head at Sterling Tech. Everything else, my career, my accomplishments, my entire life will be a footnote. Not to me, not to the people who know you. The people who know me already know who I am. It's everyone else I'm worried about." 12:15 in the afternoon. The news vans arrived at 12:22. By 12:30, there were 6 of them parked outside Sterling Tech headquarters, their satellite dishes pointed at the sky, their reporters doing stand-ups in front of the building's gleaming facade. By 12:45, the story was the lead on every major news network. Breaking news today from Manhattan, where a viral video shows employees at Sterling Tech Innovations, one of the nation's largest tech companies, apparently assaulting a black woman in the company's lobby. The woman has been identified as Maya Richardson, a prominent attorney, and according to sources, the wife of Sterling Tech CEO Daniel Crawford. Crawford has not yet made a public statement, but sources inside the company say multiple employees have been terminated in connection with the incident. Inside the building, chaos reigned. The PR department was in crisis mode, fielding calls from reporters drafting statements trying to manage a situation that was rapidly spiraling out of control. The legal department was reviewing every second of the security footage, identifying potential liabilities, preparing for the lawsuits that were surely coming. The HR department was processing terminations, updating policies, scrambling to implement the changes Daniel had demanded. And in Daniel's office, Maya sat watching the news coverage and wondering how her anniversary lunch had turned into a national story. Daniel entered, his face grim. "The board is calling an emergency meeting." Maya looked up. "Now." "In an hour. They want to know how I'm handling this." "And how are you handling it?" "I don't know. I've never dealt with anything like this before." Maya stood, walked to him, put her hands on his shoulders. "You fire the people responsible. You implement real changes. You make a statement that shows the world Sterling Tech doesn't tolerate this kind of behavior, and then you move forward. What about you? What about me? You're the victim here. You should have a say in how this plays out." Maya considered this. "I want to speak. To the press. To everyone. I want to tell my story in my own words. Not as a victim, not as a symbol, as myself." Daniel studied her face. "Are you sure, once you're out there, you can't take it back?" "I'm already out there. The video made sure of that. The only question is whether I let other people define me or whether I define myself." 1:08 in the afternoon. The press conference was hastily arranged in the Sterling Tech lobby, the same lobby where just hours earlier Maya had been humiliated. It was a deliberate choice. Daniel wanted the world to see that they were not hiding from what had happened. that they were confronting it head-on in the exact location where it occurred. A podium had been set up near the reception desk. Cameras lined the back of the lobby, their red lights blinking. Reporters filled the chairs that had been hastily arranged, their notebooks and recorders ready. Daniel spoke first. "This morning, my wife came to this building to surprise me for our wedding anniversary. Instead of being welcomed, she was harassed, humiliated, and assaulted by employees of my company." He paused. Let the words sink in. I want to be absolutely clear about something. What happened today was not an isolated incident. It was the result of a culture that failed to recognize and address bias before it became violence. That failure is mine. I built this company. I set its values. And somewhere along the way, I let people slip through who didn't share those values. He looked directly into the cameras. Today, I am announcing immediate and sweeping changes to how Sterling Tech operates. We are implementing mandatory in-person bias training for all employees. We are creating an independent review board to investigate reports of discrimination. We are establishing an anonymous reporting system that allows employees to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. 3 employees have been terminated, others are under investigation, and I want to send a clear message to everyone who works for this company. What happened today will never happen again, not on my watch. He stepped back from the podium. Now I'd like to introduce my wife, Maya Richardson. She has chosen to speak today not as a victim, but as a leader. I am incredibly proud of her courage. Maya stepped forward. The cameras clicked and flashed. Reporters leaned forward in their seats. For a moment, Maya said nothing. She just stood there looking out at the sea of faces, thinking about what she wanted to say. Then she began. "This morning, I walked into this building, expecting to have lunch with my husband. I walked out covered in soda, with my dignity shattered, wondering how something like this could happen in 2024. She paused. "I'm not going to pretend I'm okay. I'm not okay. What happened to me today was painful and degrading and deeply traumatic. I will carry it with me for the rest of my life. But I'm also not going to pretend I'm surprised, because what happened to me today happens to black people every single day in this country, in lobbies and stores and restaurants and offices. We are looked at and judged and found wanting not because of anything we've done, but because of the color of our skin. I am a graduate of Columbia Law School. I am a partner at a successful firm. I have argued cases before the Supreme Court. I serve on the boards of 4 nonprofits. I am married to one of the most successful businessmen in America. And none of that mattered. None of it protected me. Because when those employees looked at me, they didn't see any of those things. They just saw a black woman who didn't belong." She took a breath. "My husband is implementing changes to make sure this doesn't happen again at his company. That's good. That's necessary, but it's not enough. Because this isn't just a Sterling Tech problem. This is an American problem. Every one of us has a choice to make. We can stand by and watch when we see someone being mistreated. We can stay silent because speaking up is uncomfortable. We can tell ourselves it's not our problem, not our responsibility, not our place. Or we can do something. We can speak up. We can intervene. We can make it clear that cruelty and bigotry have no place in our communities. Today, 30 people watched me be humiliated. 30 people with phones in their hands recording my suffering. Only one person tried to help me. 1 person out of 30. That's not good enough. We have to be better than that. All of us." She looked directly into the camera. "To the person who tried to help me today, thank you. Your courage didn't go unnoticed. I hope you know that what you did mattered even if it didn't change the outcome. To everyone else, ask yourself what you would have done. Ask yourself what you will do next time, because there will be a next time. There always is. And when that moment comes, I hope you choose to be the one who speaks up." She stepped back from the podium. Daniel took her hand. The reporters erupted with questions. Maya and Daniel turned and walked away. 1:43 in the afternoon. In a small office on the 3rd floor, Jennifer Chang sat alone watching the press conference on her laptop. She had tried to help. For 30 seconds she had tried. Maya Richardson had noticed, had thanked her publicly in front of the entire world, and now Jennifer had to decide what to do with that. Her phone rang. The display showed an internal extension. "This is Jennifer?" "Jennifer, it's Rebecca Chen, Mr. Crawford's assistant. He'd like to see you in his office, whenever you're available." Jennifer's heart pounded. "I can come now." "That would be great, 47th floor." Jennifer hung up, stood, straightened her clothes. Then she walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. 2:07 in the afternoon. Marcus Webb sat in his car in the Sterling Tech parking garage staring at nothing. His security badge was gone. His access had been revoked. His desk had been cleared out by security while he watched, not allowed to touch anything except his personal belongings. 20 minutes. That was how long it had taken to erase 3 years of his career. His phone was blowing up. Friends and family who had seen the video demanding to know what happened. News outlets seeking comment. Strangers on social media sending death threats. He had turned it off. Couldn't handle it anymore. What had he done? He knew the answer. He had done something horrible. Something indefensible. Something that would follow him for the rest of his life. But why had he done it? That was the question he couldn't answer. Not really. Not honestly. He wanted to blame the culture of the office. The way the other receptionists joked about wrong ones. The sense that certain people didn't belong in certain spaces. But that was an excuse. Nobody had made him pour that drink. Nobody had made him say those things. He had chosen to do it. Because in that moment, it had felt good. It had felt powerful. It had felt like putting someone in their place. And now he had to live with what that said about who he really was. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Please tell me that video isn't real. Please tell me that's not my son." Marcus didn't respond. He couldn't. Because the video was real, and that was exactly who her son was. 2:39 in the afternoon. Jennifer Chang sat in Daniel Crawford's office trying not to hyperventilate. The man himself sat across from her, his expression tired but kind. Maya Richardson sat beside him, changed into fresh clothes, her composure restored. "You tried to help my wife," Daniel said. "I wanted to thank you personally." Jennifer shook her head. "I didn't do anything. I tried for 30 seconds, and then I gave up." 30 seconds is more than anyone else gave her. "It wasn't enough." "No," Maya said gently. "It wasn't, but it was something, and something is where change begins." Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. "I should have done more. I should have kept pushing. I should have—" "You were afraid," Maya interrupted. "That's normal. That's human. The people who stood by and did nothing weren't evil. They were just scared of the consequences of speaking up." "That's not an excuse." "No, it's not. But it's an explanation, and understanding why people stay silent is the first step to creating an environment where they don't have to be afraid." Daniel leaned forward. "Jennifer, I'm promoting you." Jennifer blinked. "What?" "I'm creating a new position. Director of Cultural Accountability. You'll report directly to Patricia Morrison in HR, but you'll have access to me anytime you need it. Your job will be to identify problems before they become crises, to create systems where people feel safe speaking up, to make sure what happened today never happens again." "I'm not qualified for that." "You tried to help a stranger when no one else would. That makes you more qualified than anyone else in this building." Jennifer sat in stunned silence. "You don't have to decide now," Maya said. "Take some time. Think about it. But I hope you'll say yes, because the people who try are exactly the people we need leading this kind of work." Jennifer thought about the lobby, about Maya standing there covered in soda, surrounded by people who laughed and recorded and did nothing, about her own 30 seconds of courage and her lifetime of regret for not doing more. "Yes, Akon," she said. "I'll do it." Daniel smiled. For the first time all day, he actually smiled. "Welcome to the team." 3:22 in the afternoon. The board meeting lasted 2 hours. Daniel presented everything. The video footage, the timeline of events, the immediate actions taken, the long-term changes planned. The board members listened in grim silence. When he finished, the chairman, Eleanor Wright, 72, one of the original investors in Sterling Tech, spoke first. "This is a disaster. You understand that, right? Stock price is already down 8%. Advertisers are panicking. Clients are calling to express concern." "I understand." "And your response is to fire 3 low-level employees and implement some training programs." "My response is to fundamentally change how this company operates. The firings are just the beginning. The optics are terrible. The optics are honest. We failed. We're admitting it. We're fixing it." Another board member, Thomas Chen, 55, representing a major investment fund, spoke up. "Daniel, I have to ask, your wife, her decision to go public, was that wise?" Daniel's expression hardened. "My wife made her own decision about how to handle her trauma. I support her completely. But she's now the face of this story. Every time someone mentions Sterling Tech for the next year, they'll think about the black woman who got a drink thrown on her head. Good. They should think about that. They should remember what happens when we let bias go unchecked." That's not good for business. Then business needs to change. Eleanor held up her hand. Daniel, we're not your enemies here. We're trying to protect the company. I am protecting the company. I'm protecting it from becoming the kind of place where this happens and no one cares. If we sweep this under the rug, if we treat it as a PR problem instead of a moral failure, we deserve to fail. Silence around the table. Finally, Eleanor nodded slowly. What do you need from us? Your trust, your support, and your patience. This is going to take time. There will be more bad news before there's good news. But if we do this right, we come out of it stronger. And if we do it wrong, then I'll resign. You have my word. If a year from now we haven't made meaningful progress, I'll step down and let someone else try. The board members exchanged glances. Thomas Chen spoke first. I'm in. One by one, the others followed. Daniel let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Thank you. Now, let's get to work. 4:15 in the afternoon. Maya and Daniel finally sat down for their anniversary lunch at 4:17. Not in a restaurant, not at some fancy venue. In Daniel's office with takeout from the Thai place down the street that they'd gone to on their first date. Paper containers spread across his desk, chopsticks instead of silverware. Two people who had been through hell trying to find their way back to something normal. Happy anniversary, Daniel said, raising a plastic cup of water. Maya laughed despite herself. This isn't exactly how I imagined today going. No, but we're together. That's what matters. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Then Maya spoke. I meant what I said at the press conference about one person trying to help, about that mattering. Jennifer Chang, I promoted her. I know, I was there. Maya smiled. Good choice. She tried. That counts for something. It counts for everything. Because if one person tries, maybe two people try next time, and then 4, and then 8, and eventually the people who stay silent become the exception instead of the rule. You really believe that? I have to believe it. Otherwise, what's the point? Daniel reached across the desk and took her hand. I love you, Maya Richardson. I love you too, Daniel Crawford. They sat there holding hands across a desk covered in Thai food containers in an office on the 47th floor of a building where 8 hours earlier, Maya had been treated like less than human. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But it was real. And it was theirs. And sometimes that was enough. 5:33 in the afternoon. As the sun began to set over Manhattan, the Sterling Tech lobby was quiet. The cleaning crew had mopped up the last traces of soda from the marble floor. The reception desk sat empty, awaiting new staff who would be hired under much stricter criteria. The glass walls reflected the golden light of evening. Somewhere in the building, Patricia Morrison was finalizing the termination paperwork for Marcus Webb, Brittany Cole, and Ryan Peters. Somewhere else, Jennifer Chang was settling into her new office, already making lists of the changes she wanted to implement. On the 47th floor, Daniel and Maya were finally leaving for the day hand in hand, facing a world that now knew their story. And in a parking garage across town, Marcus Webb sat in his car, still staring at nothing, contemplating the ruins of his life and wondering if there was any way back from what he had done. The video would live forever on the internet. The story would be told and retold. The name Marcus Webb would become synonymous with the kind of casual cruelty that lurked just beneath the surface of polite society. But in the lobby of Sterling Tech Innovations, something else was beginning. A commitment to do better. A willingness to confront ugly truths. A determination to build something different. It was not redemption. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was a start. And in a world that often seemed designed to resist change, a start was no small thing. 7:14 in the morning, on Wednesday, Marcus Webb had not slept. He sat on the edge of his bed in his studio apartment, staring at the wall, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. His phone lay face down on the nightstand, silenced but still buzzing constantly with notifications he could not bring himself to read. His mother had called 17 times. He had not answered. His father had sent one text, "Don't come home for Thanksgiving." His sister had blocked him on every platform. The video had been viewed 4 million times. 4 million people had watched him pour a drink on Maya Richardson's head. 4 million people had heard him call her a maid. 4 million people now knew exactly what kind of person Marcus Webb really was. He had tried to sleep around 2 in the morning, had closed his eyes and immediately seen Maya's face. The shock, the humiliation, the way the cola had dripped from her chin while his colleagues laughed. He had gotten up and vomited. Now he sat here hollow, trying to understand how his life had fallen apart so completely in less than 24 hours. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it. Then it rang. A different tone. His landlord. Marcus picked up. "Hello." "Marcus, it's Dave. I'm calling about your lease." "What about it?" "I need you out by the end of the month." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What?" "You can't do that. I have a lease until March." "Read the fine print, buddy. Section 12, paragraph 3. Tenant conduct that brings disrepute to the property is grounds for immediate termination. I've got other tenants complaining. They don't want to live in the same building as you." "Dave, please. I don't have anywhere else to go." "Should have thought about that before you decided to assault someone on camera. End of the month, Marcus. Have your stuff out, or I'll have it removed." The line went dead. Marcus sat there, phone still pressed to his ear, listening to silence. End of the month. 12 days. He had 12 days to find a new apartment with no job, no references, and a viral video attached to his name that would follow him forever. For the first time since yesterday morning, Marcus Webb started to cry. 8:43 in the morning. Jennifer Chang arrived at Sterling Tech headquarters with a knot in her stomach. Yesterday, she had been a mid-level marketing manager. Today, she was the director of cultural accountability, whatever that meant. She still was not entirely sure she deserved the position. 30 seconds of courage did not seem like enough to qualify anyone for anything. But Maya Richardson had looked her in the eyes and said that trying mattered, and Daniel Crawford had offered her a chance to make a real difference. So here she was. Patricia Morrison was waiting for her on the 45th floor outside a small office that had been hastily cleared out and reassigned. "This is yours," Patricia said, gesturing to the door. "It's not much, but we'll get you something bigger once you've proven yourself." "I appreciate the opportunity. I just hope I don't disappoint you." Patricia studied her for a moment. "Can I be honest with you, Jennifer? Please. I've been doing this work for 30 years, diversity and inclusion, cultural change, all of it, and I've learned one thing." "What's that?" "The people who worry about disappointing others are usually the ones who end up making a difference. The ones who think they've got it all figured out are the dangerous ones." Jennifer nodded slowly. "I have a lot to learn." "We all do. That's the point." Patricia handed her a thick folder. "This is everything we have on the incident yesterday. Witness statements, security footage, internal communications. I want you to review all of it, understand exactly what happened and exactly how we failed to prevent it. And then we figure out how to make sure it never happens again." Jennifer took the folder. It was heavier than she expected. "One more thing," Patricia said. "Yes. The 3 people who were terminated yesterday, Marcus Webb, Brittany, Cole, Ryan, Peters. They're going to fight this. Their lawyers are already making noise about wrongful termination, discrimination, hostile work environment." Discrimination. They're claiming discrimination. They're claiming that they were fired because the victim happened to be the CEO's wife. That if Maya Richardson had been anyone else, they would have received warnings, not terminations. Jennifer felt a flash of anger. "That's ridiculous. They assaulted someone on camera." "I know, but ridiculous claims still require responses. Stephen Walsh and the legal team are handling it, but you should be aware. This isn't over just because we fired some people." "Understood." Patricia turned to leave, then paused. "Jennifer, what you did yesterday, trying to speak up, it was brave. It wasn't enough." "No, but sometimes not enough is still something. Remember that." She walked away, leaving Jennifer alone with a folder full of failures and a job she was not sure she could do. 9:51 in the morning. Brittany Cole's lawyer called Stephen Walsh at exactly 9:51. His name was Richard Brennan, and he was known in legal circles as a pit bull, the kind of attorney who took impossible cases and won them through sheer aggression. "Mr. Walsh, I'm representing Brittany Cole in the matter of her wrongful termination from Sterling Tech Innovations." Stephen leaned back in his chair. "There was nothing wrongful about it. Your client participated in the harassment and assault of a visitor to our building. My client followed established protocols for dealing with unauthorized visitors. She had no way of knowing the woman claiming to be Mr. Crawford's wife was telling the truth. Your client denied a human being access to a bathroom. Your client called the police on a woman who had just been assaulted. Your client laughed while her colleague poured a drink on someone's head. None of which rises to the level of a terminable offense under your employee handbook. Section 14, paragraph 6. Conduct unbecoming of a Sterling Tech employee. Any behavior that reflects poorly on the company is grounds for immediate termination." That's a catch-all clause. It's meant for things like embezzlement or fraud, not for receptionists who are simply doing their jobs. Their jobs did not include calling visitors maids or suggesting they were there to see their parole officers. Alleged statements that cannot be proven. We have security footage with audio. Silence on the other end of the line. Stephen pressed his advantage. Mr. Brennan, I've reviewed the footage extensively. Every word your client said is captured in high definition. Every laugh, every eye roll, every condescending comment. If you want to take this to court, we will play that footage for a jury, and they will watch your client participate in the humiliation of a black woman who had done nothing wrong. Mrs. Richardson is not just any black woman. She's the wife of a billionaire. The jury will see this as a rich woman using her husband's power to destroy the careers of working-class employees who made minor mistakes. Minor mistakes? Your client's colleague dumped a drink on her head. My client didn't do that. Marcus Webb did. Your client laughed. Your client encouraged it. Your client called the police and falsely reported that Mrs. Richardson was violent. My client made a judgment call based on the information available to her. Your client made a racist judgment call based on the color of Mrs. Richardson's skin. Another silence. Mr. Walsh, my client is prepared to settle. We're seeking 6 months severance, a neutral reference, and a non-disclosure agreement, preventing Sterling Tech from discussing the circumstances of her departure. Stephen almost laughed. You're joking. I'm completely serious. Mr. Brennan, your client is lucky we're not pressing criminal charges. Assault, false police report, civil rights violations. We could bury her in litigation for years. You won't do that. The publicity would be worse for you than for her. Try me. Stephen hung up the phone. Then he leaned back in his chair and wondered how many more calls like this were coming. 11:27 in the morning. Maya Richardson returned to work for the first time since the incident. Richardson and Associates occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in Midtown, just 8 blocks from Sterling Tech headquarters. Maya had built the firm from nothing 15 years ago, had grown it into one of the most successful civil rights practices in the country. Now she walked through the front doors feeling like a stranger. Every eye in the lobby tracked her movement. Every conversation paused. Every face held that expression she had come to recognize, the look people gave you when they had seen you at your worst and did not know how to pretend they hadn't. Her assistant David met her at the elevator. Maya, I didn't expect you today. I couldn't sit at home anymore. I needed to work. Understood. I've cleared your morning. Rescheduled all your meetings. You have nothing until 2 o'clock. Cancel the 2 o'clock too. I need to catch up on everything I missed yesterday. Of course. They rode the elevator in silence. When the doors opened on the 30th floor, Maya stepped out into the space she had built. Her name on the wall, her vision in every detail. It should have felt like coming home. Instead, it felt like walking into a museum dedicated to a version of herself that no longer existed. She went to her office, closed the door, sat down at her desk. The first thing she saw was a stack of messages. Phone calls that had come in since yesterday. Clients, colleagues, reporters, strangers. Maya, I saw the video. I'm so sorry. Call me if you need anything. Mrs. Richardson, this is CNN. We'd love to have you on for an interview. Please, call back at your earliest convenience. Maya, it's Senator Williams. What happened to you was unconscionable. The Senate is considering hearings on workplace discrimination. Would you be willing to testify? She pushed the messages aside. She was not ready for any of this. Not ready to be a symbol, a spokesperson, a cause. She just wanted to be Maya Richardson, attorney at law, doing the work she had spent her whole life preparing for. But that was not an option anymore. The video had changed everything. 4 million views and counting. Her face, her humiliation, her worst moment preserved forever in the digital ether. She would never just be Maya Richardson again. From now on, she would always be the black woman who got a drink thrown on her head. 12:44 in the afternoon. Terrence Brooks reported for his shift at Sterling Tech at 12:44. He had considered not coming. Had spent the morning lying in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the lobby scene over and over in his mind. He should have spoken up, should have trusted his instincts, should have done something, anything other than stand there in silence while a woman who looked like his own sister was humiliated. But he had done nothing, and now he had to live with that. The security office was quiet when he arrived. His supervisor, James Morton, was waiting for him. Terrence, sit down. Terrence sat. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Yesterday was a disaster, and you were part of it. I know. Mr. Crawford spoke to me this morning. He's not firing you. He thinks you're redeemable, but you're on thin ice. I understand. Do you, because what I saw on that footage was a man who knew something was wrong and chose to do nothing about it. I was following orders. That's not an excuse. That's never an excuse. Terrence nodded slowly. You're right. It's not. James studied him for a long moment. Mr. Crawford is creating a new position, cultural accountability. He wants someone from security on the team, someone who can help train guards to recognize bias, to intervene when something's wrong, to do better than what we did yesterday. And you're asking me? I'm telling you, Mr. Crawford specifically requested you. Terrence blinked. Why I failed? Because you admitted it, because you showed remorse, because he thinks you're the kind of person who can learn from their mistakes instead of making excuses for them. I don't know what to say. Say yes or say no, but decide now. Terrence thought about his daughter, about what he would tell her when she was old enough to understand, about whether he could look her in the eye and say he had tried to make things right. Yes, Gulp, he said. I'll do it. James nodded. Good. Report to Jennifer Chang on 45. She's expecting you. 2:18 in the afternoon. The first lawsuit was filed at 2:18. Marcus Webb v. Sterling Tech Innovations, Inc., wrongful termination, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Stephen Walsh received the summons electronically and immediately forwarded it to Daniel. His phone rang 30 seconds later. Tell me this is a joke, Daniel said. I wish I could. He poured a drink on my wife's head, on camera, and he's suing us. His lawyer is claiming that the termination was retaliatory because Maya is your wife, that if she had been anyone else, he would have received a warning, not immediate termination. That's insane. It's a legal strategy. He's betting that we'll settle to avoid the bad publicity of a prolonged court battle. We're not settling. Daniel, I have to advise you. We're not settling. Not $1, not 1 cent. He can take this to trial and explain to a jury why he thought it was appropriate to assault a woman because of the color of her skin. It could take years, cost millions in legal fees. I don't care. The board might. The board can go to hell. This isn't about money. This is about what's right. Stephen sighed. Understood. I'll prepare our response. Good. And Stephen, yes. Thank you for everything you're doing. It's my job. No, it's more than that. You could have advised me to settle, to make this go away quietly. You didn't. Some things are worth fighting for. Daniel hung up. Stephen stared at the lawsuit on his screen for a long moment. Then he started writing. 3:41 in the afternoon. Jennifer Chang's first meeting with Terrence Brooks lasted 3 hours. They sat in her small office on the 45th floor, going through the security footage frame by frame, identifying every moment where someone could have intervened, every opportunity that was missed. There, Jennifer said, pointing at the screen, that's when Victor Hayes arrived. What were you thinking at that moment? Terrence shook his head. I was thinking that something was wrong, that the woman seemed too certain, too composed to be lying. But Victor started talking, and suddenly I was following his lead instead of my own instincts. Why, host? Because he's management, because challenging him could cost me my job, because it was easier to stay silent than to speak up. Is that what you would tell your daughter? The question hit Terrence like a punch. No, he said quietly, that's not what I would tell her. What would you tell her? I would tell her to speak up, to trust her instincts, to do the right thing even when it's hard. Then why didn't you do that yesterday? Terrence was silent for a long moment. Because I was afraid. Because I've spent my whole life being told to keep my head down, not to make waves, not to draw attention to myself. Because when you're black in corporate America, you learn very quickly that speaking up can get you labeled as difficult, as aggressive, as a troublemaker. Jennifer nodded slowly. I understand that. I'm Asian American. I've had my own experiences with being told to stay quiet, to be the model minority, to not rock the boat. So you know. I know, but I also know that staying quiet is how things stay the same. It's how systems that hurt people continue to operate. It's how Marcus Webb and Brittany Cole felt comfortable doing what they did. They felt comfortable because no one ever stopped them before. Exactly. So how do we change that? Terrence thought about it. We create consequences, real consequences, not just for the people who do harm, but for the people who enable it. And for the people who stay silent. Them too, maybe especially them. Jennifer wrote something down. Keep going. We make it clear that speaking up is valued, not punished. That people who report problems are protected, not ostracized. That the company has their back, even if it means going against management. How do we do that? We start with training. Not the online modules that everyone clicks through without reading. Real training. In person. Interactive. Where people actually have to confront their biases and talk about them. What else? We create multiple channels for reporting, anonymous ones. so people don't have to fear retaliation, and we investigate every report no matter how small it seems. What about security specifically? How do we train guards to do better? Terrence leaned forward. We teach them to question, to verify, to treat every person who walks through those doors as if they could be the CEO's wife, because they could be, and even if they're not, they still deserve basic human decency. Jennifer smiled for the first time since the meeting started. I think you're going to be good at this. I don't know about that. I failed pretty badly yesterday. You failed. And you're sitting here trying to figure out how to do better. That's more than most people can say. 4:58 in the afternoon. Maya Richardson left her office at 4:58 earlier than usual. She had tried to work, had reviewed case files, answered emails, prepared for upcoming depositions, but her mind kept wandering back to yesterday, to the lobby, to the laughter, to Marcus Webb's face as he dumped that drink on her head. She took the elevator down alone, walked through the lobby with her head high, ignoring the stares that followed her. Outside, she found Daniel waiting in his car. You didn't have to pick me up, huh? She said, sliding into the passenger seat. I wanted to. I'm not fragile. I know you're not, but I missed you. Maya smiled despite herself. You saw me this morning. I know, I still missed you. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Then Maya spoke. Marcus Webb is suing us. I know, Stephen told me. What are you going to do? Fight for as long as it takes. It could be years. I don't care. The board might care. The board can deal with it. Maya turned to look at her husband. His jaw was set, his eyes focused on the road. She recognized that expression. It was the same one he wore when he was building Sterling Tech from nothing, when everyone told him it couldn't be done and he did it anyway. You're not going to back down, are you? Not ever. What they did to you was wrong, and I'm going to make sure they face consequences even if it takes the rest of my life. Daniel, I mean it. This isn't about money or publicity or business strategy. This is about right and wrong, and what happened to you was wrong. Maya reached over and took his hand. I love you. I love you too. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't let this consume you. Don't let their hatred turn you into someone you're not. Fight, yes, but don't lose yourself in the process. Daniel was quiet for a moment. I can't promise that. Why not? Because when I saw you standing in that lobby covered in soda surrounded by people who were supposed to work for me, something broke inside me. Something I don't know how to fix. Something broke inside me too. I know. So we're both broken. I guess we are. Maya squeezed his hand. Then we'll be broken together, and we'll figure out how to heal together. Daniel brought her hand to his lips and kissed it. Together, he repeated. They drove the rest of the way home in silence, holding hands, two people trying to find their way through the darkness towards something that might eventually feel like light. 6:22 in the evening. Brittany Cole's mother called her at 6:22. Baby, I just saw the news. They're saying you're suing your old company. Brittany was lying on her couch, surrounded by empty wine bottles and used tissues. She had not showered since yesterday, had barely eaten, had spent most of the day crying and scrolling through social media comments calling her every name imaginable. My lawyer filed the lawsuit. He says we have a case. Do you think you have a case? Brittany did not answer. Baby, I saw the video. Everyone saw the video. I didn't throw the drink. Marcus did. But you laughed, honey. Everyone saw you laughing. I didn't know what else to do. You could have helped her. You could have said something. You could have done anything other than laugh. Brittany felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I know. Then why didn't you? Because I was scared. Because Marcus was my friend. Because it was easier to go along with it than to stand up against it. That's not how I raised you. The words cut deeper than anything the internet trolls had said. I know, Mom. I know. I'm not angry with you, baby. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. Brittany started sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to that woman, the one you hurt. I can't. I'm suing her husband's company. My lawyer says I can't have any contact with her. Then drop the lawsuit. What? You heard me. Drop the lawsuit. Face what you did. Take responsibility. Mom, if I drop the lawsuit, I'll have nothing. No job, no references, no future. You'll have your integrity. That's worth more than any job. Brittany was crying so hard she could barely breathe. I don't know if I can do that. Then you need to figure out what kind of person you want to be. Because right now, baby, you're not someone I recognize." The line went dead. Brittany sat there, phone pressed to her ear, listening to silence. Then she set the phone down, put her face in her hands, and wept. 8:07 in the evening. Patricia Morrison worked late. She always worked late, but tonight was different. Tonight she was reviewing 30 years of Sterling Tech hiring records looking for patterns. How many complaints had been filed against Marcus Webb before yesterday? 3. 2 verbal warnings, 1 written, all for attitude problems with visitors. All dismissed as minor issues. How many complaints against Brittany Cole? 2, both related to customer service concerns. Both handled with coaching sessions that obviously accomplished nothing. How many complaints against Ryan Peters? 1, just 2 months ago. A visitor had reported feeling unwelcome after interacting with him. The complaint had been logged and filed. No action taken. Patricia pulled up the HR records for the reception desk over the past 5 years. 12 employees total. 8 complaints filed against various staff members. Not a single termination. A pattern. Not a coincidence. Patricia started drafting her report. The incident involving Maya Richardson was not an isolated event. It was the culmination of years of inadequate oversight, insufficient training, and a culture that tolerated low-level misconduct as long as it didn't rise to the level of serious offense. The employees involved should never have been hired in the first place. Their interview records show concerning responses that were overlooked or excused. Their performance reviews reveal ongoing issues that were minimized rather than addressed. The failure is systemic. It starts with hiring, continues through training, and is perpetuated by a management structure that prioritizes avoiding conflict over ensuring accountability. She kept writing until midnight. When she finally saved the document and turned off her computer, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not because the situation was good. It wasn't. It was terrible. But because for the first time she had a leader who was willing to listen, willing to change, willing to do the hard work required to build something better. Daniel Crawford was not perfect. No one was. But he was committed. And commitment Patricia had learned over 30 years was the only thing that really mattered. 9:43 in the evening. Jennifer Chang was still in her office at 9:43. She should have gone home hours ago, but she could not stop reviewing the footage, the reports, the witness statements. Could not stop trying to understand how a company that claimed to value diversity and inclusion could have allowed this to happen. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Saw the news. Is this your company? Are you okay?" Jennifer stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back, "I'm okay. I'm trying to help fix it." Her mother's response came immediately. "Good. You were always the one who tried to fix things, even when you were little." Jennifer smiled despite herself. Her mother was right. She had always been the one who tried. In elementary school, she had organized recycling programs. In high school, she had started a peer tutoring service. In college, she had founded a mentorship program for first-generation students. She tried. Even when trying was hard. Even when it would have been easier to stay silent. Yesterday, she had tried for 30 seconds. It had not been enough. But today, she had been given a chance to try for real, to build systems and structures that would outlast her, to make a difference that would ripple outward for years. She was terrified, and she was ready. 10:15 in the evening. Daniel Crawford sat in his home office reviewing the day's events. The lawsuit from Marcus Webb. The legal threats from Brittany Cole's attorney. The board's concerns about stock price and public relations. The media requests that kept flooding in, and underneath all of it, the image of his wife standing in his lobby covered in soda, shaking. He could not get it out of his head. Could not stop thinking about what would have happened if he had arrived 10 minutes later. If the police had gotten there first. If Maya had been arrested in his building, handcuffed and hauled away for the crime of existing while black. The thought made him physically ill. There was a soft knock on the door. Maya entered wearing pajamas, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "You should sleep," she said, handing him one of the mugs. "So should you." "I tried. Couldn't stop thinking." "Me too." She sat down on the small couch in the corner of his office. He swiveled his chair to face her. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Regret what?" "Going public, making this a big thing. We could have handled it quietly, fired the employees, settled any claims, moved on." Daniel shook his head. "No regrets. Even with the lawsuits, the bad publicity, the board breathing down your neck. Especially with all that. Because if we had handled it quietly, nothing would have changed. The next person who walked into that lobby would have faced the same treatment you did. You don't know that." "Yes, I do. That's how it works. You cover things up, you make them go away, and you teach people that there are no real consequences for their actions. The only way to change behavior is to make the cost of that behavior unbearable. Maya sipped her tea. My mother called me today. What did she say? She said she was proud of me. For speaking out. For not letting them silence me. She should be proud. She also said she was scared. For both of us. She thinks this is going to get worse before it gets better. She's probably right. Are you scared? Daniel considered the question. No, not scared. Angry, yes. Determined, definitely. But not scared. What are you angry about? Everything. The fact that this happened at all. The fact that my employees felt comfortable doing it. The fact that not one person in that lobby stood up for you until it was almost too late. The fact that we live in a world where people like Marcus Webb think they can treat people like you as less than human. People like me. Black people. Women. Anyone who doesn't fit their narrow definition of who belongs. Maya set down her mug. Can I tell you something? Anything. Part of me wanted to let it go. Yesterday when I was standing in that lobby covered in soda surrounded by people who hated me for no reason, part of me wanted to just walk away, accept that this was how the world worked. Stop fighting. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Why not? Maya was quiet for a long moment. Because my grandmother was a maid. Did you know that? Daniel shook his head. She cleaned houses in Alabama for 40 years. White houses, rich houses, and she was treated like dirt every single day of her working life. Called names, mocked, humiliated, just like I was yesterday. Maya, she never complained, never stood up for herself. She just took it because that's what you did back then. That's what you had to do to survive. Things are different now. Are they? Because yesterday in your lobby it felt pretty damn similar. Daniel did not know what to say. My grandmother died when I was 12, Maya continued, and the last thing she told me was that she hoped I would live in a world where I didn't have to bow my head, where I could be treated as an equal, where I could fight back without fear. And now you can. Now I can, because of people like her who suffered so that I could have opportunities she never dreamed of, and because of people like you who are willing to stand beside me when the fight gets hard. Daniel stood up, walked to the couch, sat down beside his wife. I will always stand beside you, he said. Always, no matter what. Maya leaned her head on his shoulder. I know, she whispered. That's why I married you. They sat there together, two people in a quiet room facing an uncertain future. But they were not alone, and sometimes that was enough. 2 weeks later, Monday morning, 8:17. Marcus Webb woke up on his sister's couch for the 14th consecutive day. She had not spoken to him since letting him in, had simply pointed to the couch, handed him a blanket, and walked away. Her husband had made it clear that Marcus was not welcome at family dinners. Her children had been told not to talk to Uncle Marcus about what happened. He was a ghost in their house. Present but invisible. Tolerated but not forgiven. His phone buzzed. His lawyer, Richard Brennan. Marcus, we have a problem. What now? Sterling Tech filed their response to our lawsuit. They're not settling. They're countersuing. Marcus sat up straight. Countersuing for what? Assault, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. They're seeking $2 million in damages plus legal fees. $2 million? I don't have $2 million. I don't have $2,000. I know, that's the point. They're trying to bury you. So what do? We have two options. Drop the lawsuit and try to negotiate a settlement on the countersuit, or we fight and potentially lose everything. Marcus stared at the wall. His sister's wall. The wall he was staring at because he had no home of his own anymore. What do you recommend, Honestly, drop it. Cut your losses. This isn't a fight you can win. But you said we had a case. I said we might have a case, before they countersued, before their legal team started digging into your past. Did you know they found 3 prior complaints against you in your HR file? Those were nothing. Minor stuff. Minor stuff that establishes a pattern of behavior. Minor stuff that makes it look like Sterling Tech had plenty of reasons to fire you regardless of who Maya Richardson was married to. Marcus felt the walls closing in. So that's it, I just roll over. You don't roll over. You face reality. You made a terrible mistake. You hurt someone badly, and now you're facing the consequences of that mistake. The question is whether you want those consequences to be manageable or catastrophic. What's manageable? Drop the lawsuit. Issue a public apology. Demonstrate genuine remorse. Maybe they'll drop the countersuit if you're willing to take accountability. And if I don't, then this goes to trial, and every detail of what you did gets examined under a microscope. Every word you said, every laugh, every racist joke, all of it played for a jury and broadcast to the world. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I need to think about it. Don't think too long. Their offer won't last forever. The line went dead. Marcus set his phone down and put his head in his hands. 9:43 in the morning. Jennifer Cheng was presenting her first major report to the Sterling Tech executive team. She had been working on it for 2 weeks straight. Late nights, early mornings, endless revisions. Patricia Morrison had reviewed every word. Terrence Brooks had contributed a section on security protocols. Stephen Walsh had vetted it for legal implications. Now she stood at the head of the conference room, facing 30 of the most powerful people in the company, her heart pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it. Thank you all for being here, she began. What I'm about to present is the result of a comprehensive review of the incident that occurred in our lobby 3 weeks ago, as well as the systemic failures that allowed it to happen. She clicked to her first slide. Let me start with a number, 47. The executives shifted in their seats. That's how many complaints related to discrimination, harassment, or unprofessional conduct have been filed at Sterling Tech over the past 5 years. 47 complaints. Do you know how many resulted in terminations? She paused. 2 terminations out of 47 complaints, a 4% accountability rate. Murmurs around the table. Now let me give you another number, 83%. 83% of the employees who filed those complaints are no longer with the company. They quit. They transferred to other departments. They found ways to leave rather than continue working in an environment where their concerns were ignored. Daniel Crawford was watching her intently from the head of the table. His expression was unreadable. What happened to Maya Richardson was not an isolated incident. It was the predictable result of a culture that tolerated small acts of discrimination because addressing them was inconvenient. A culture that valued conflict avoidance over justice. A culture that made it easier to stay silent than to speak up. She clicked to the next slide. This is Marcus Webb's HR file. 3 complaints over 2 years, all dismissed as minor issues. If any one of those complaints had been taken seriously, if there had been real consequences for his behavior, the incident in the lobby might never have happened. This is Brittany Cole's file, 2 complaints. Same pattern, same result. This is the file of the supervisor on duty that day, Victor Hayes. 0 complaints against him personally, but 12 complaints about incidents that happened under his supervision. 12 times his employees behaved inappropriately, and 12 times no meaningful action was taken. She looked around the room. The problem isn't bad apples. The problem is the barrel, and if we don't fix the barrel, we'll keep producing bad apples forever. The room was silent. Daniel spoke first. What do you recommend? Jennifer clicked to her final slide. A complete overhaul of our accountability systems, mandatory bias training that's actually mandatory, not checkbox compliance, an independent review board with real authority to investigate and discipline, protected channels for reporting that don't route through the people being reported, and most importantly, a fundamental shift in how we think about these issues. What kind of shift? We need to stop treating discrimination as an HR problem and start treating it as a business problem. Every time we lose an employee because they didn't feel safe speaking up, that's a cost. Every time we have to settle a lawsuit, that's a cost. Every time our reputation takes a hit, that's a cost. The incident with Maya Richardson will cost this company millions of dollars before it's over. That's not just a moral failure, it's a financial one. The COO, Robert Martinez, spoke up. Those are strong words. They're accurate words. I've run the numbers. Lost productivity from employees who leave. Legal fees. Settlement costs. PR expenses. Recruitment costs to replace the people we lose. Over the past 5 years, discrimination-related issues have cost Sterling Tech an estimated $12 million, and that's before we factor in the current situation. Silence. We can keep doing what we've been doing. We can treat this as an isolated incident, implement some cosmetic changes, and hope for the best. Or we can actually fix the problem. The choice is yours. She stepped back from the podium. Daniel stood. Thank you, Jennifer. This is exactly the kind of analysis we needed. He looked around the table. I want everyone in this room to understand something. What Jennifer just presented isn't optional. It's not a suggestion. It's the new reality of how we operate. We're implementing every recommendation in that report, and I'm personally holding each of you accountable for making it happen in your departments. Any questions? Nobody spoke. Good, then let's get to work. 11:22 in the morning. Brittany Cole dropped her lawsuit. Her lawyer called Stephen Walsh at 11:22 to deliver the news. My client has decided not to pursue her claims against Sterling Tech. She's also prepared to issue a public apology and make a statement accepting responsibility for her actions. Stephen was surprised. What changed her mind? Personal reflection, family pressure, the realization that fighting this battle wasn't in her best interest. What does she want in return? Nothing. She's not asking for severance or references or anything else. She just wants to move on with her life. Stephen considered this. I'll need to discuss with Mr. Crawford, but I think we can accommodate that assuming the apology is genuine. It will be. Then we'll be in touch. Chief! Stephen hung up and immediately called Daniel. Brittany Cole is dropping her lawsuit. She wants to apologize. Do you believe her? I believe she's scared and desperate and probably being pressured by her family. Whether that translates to genuine remorse, I don't know. What do you recommend? Accept the apology. Drop any potential action against her. Let her fade into obscurity. She's not the real problem here. Marcus Webb is. What's the latest on his case? His lawyer is making noises about settling. I think the countersuit scared them. Good. Keep the pressure on. Understood. Daniel hung up. One victory down. One more to go. 12:44 in the afternoon. Maya Richardson testified before the Senate Subcommittee on Employment Discrimination at 12:44. The hearing room was packed. Senators in their high-backed chairs, staffers lining the walls, cameras from every major news network broadcasting live. Senator Williams, the committee chair, made the introduction. Our next witness is Maya Richardson, a partner at Richardson and Associates who was the victim of a highly publicized incident of workplace discrimination 3 weeks ago. Mrs. Richardson, thank you for being here. Maya leaned into the microphone. Thank you, Senator, and please call me Ms. Richardson. I kept my maiden name. A few chuckles from the gallery. Ms. Richardson, can you describe what happened to you on the morning of the incident? Maya took a breath. I walked into my husband's company to surprise him for our anniversary lunch. Within 5 minutes, I was called a maid. Within 10 minutes, I was denied access to a bathroom. Within 15 minutes, I had a drink thrown on my head. Within 20 minutes, the police had been called. Within 30 minutes, I was surrounded by security guards preparing to forcibly remove me from the building. And why do you believe this happened? Because I'm black. Because the employees who looked at me couldn't imagine that a black woman could belong in a place like that, could be married to a man like my husband, could be anything other than what their prejudices told them I must be. What would you like to see Congress do in response to incidents like this? Several things. First, stronger protections for people who report discrimination. The current laws make it too easy for companies to retaliate against whistleblowers. Second, real penalties for companies that tolerate discriminatory cultures. Right now, the fines are so small that it's cheaper to pay them than to fix the underlying problems. Third, mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all federally contracted companies. If you want to do business with the government, you should have to demonstrate that you treat all people with dignity. Senator Mitchell, a senior Republican, leaned forward. Ms. Richardson, some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have suggested that this incident proves the need for sweeping new regulations. But couldn't this just be a case of a few bad employees at one company? Isn't the private sector capable of policing itself? Maya's expression hardened. Senator, with respect, I've spent my entire career fighting discrimination cases. I've represented hundreds of people who were mistreated, harassed, or fired because of who they were. And in almost every case, the company said exactly what you just said, that it was a few bad apples, that they could handle it internally, that they didn't need outside oversight. And what happened? Nothing changed. The bad apples got replaced by new bad apples. The underlying culture stayed exactly the same, and the people who suffered kept suffering while the companies kept writing checks and promising to do better. So you don't believe companies can reform themselves? I believe some can. I've seen it happen. My husband's company is attempting it right now, but most don't because there's no incentive to. The cost of discrimination is borne by the victims, not the perpetrators. Until that changes, nothing else will. The hearing continued for another 2 hours. By the time it ended, Maya Richardson had become the face of the movement for workplace discrimination reform. She had not asked for it, had not wanted it, but she was not going to run from it either. 3:18 in the afternoon. Terrence Brooks knocked on Jennifer Chang's office door. Got a minute? Sure, come in. Terrence sat down across from her desk. He looked troubled. What's on your mind? I've been thinking about something that's been bothering me since the incident. Tell me. That day in the lobby, I knew something was wrong. I felt it in my gut, but I didn't say anything. I just went along with what Sandra and Victor said. We've talked about this. You're working to do better. I know, but that's not what's bothering me. Then what is... What's bothering me is that I've been in situations like that before. Not that extreme, but similar. Times when I saw something wrong and stayed quiet. Times when I could have spoken up and didn't. Jennifer nodded slowly. You're not alone in that. Most people have moments like that. But that's the problem, isn't it? We all have these moments, and we all stay quiet, and nothing ever changes because everyone is waiting for someone else to go first. So what's the solution? Terrence leaned forward. I've been thinking about that, and I think it comes down to community, to knowing that if you speak up, someone else will back you up, that you're not alone. How do we create that? We start small. We identify people who are willing to be the ones who speak up. We train them, support them, create a network of allies throughout the company who can intervene when they see something wrong. Like a neighborhood watch, but for discrimination. Exactly. We can't be everywhere at once. But if we have enough people watching, enough people willing to say something, then the Marcus Webbs of the world won't feel comfortable doing what they do. Jennifer wrote something down. I like this. Write up a proposal. I'll present it to Patricia. Really, this is exactly the kind of thinking we need. Terrence smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had seen from him since the incident. Thank you for believing in me after what I did. What you didn't do, there's a difference. Is there? I think so. You didn't cause harm. You failed to prevent it. Both are problems, but they're different problems, and you're trying to fix yours. I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. 4:51 in the afternoon. Marcus Webb's lawyer called him at 4:51 with news. Sterling Tech has made an offer. What kind of offer? They'll drop the countersuit if you drop your lawsuit, issue a public apology, and complete 500 hours of community service with organizations that combat racism and discrimination. Marcus was silent. Marcus, did you hear me? I heard you. 500 hours. It's a lot, but it's better than $2 million in damages. What if I say no? Then we go to trial, and based on my assessment of the evidence, we lose. Badly. So I don't really have a choice. You have a choice. It's just not a good one. Marcus thought about his sister's couch, about his empty bank account, about the future he no longer had. What does the apology have to say? They want you to take full responsibility for your actions. Acknowledge that what you did was racist and wrong. Express genuine remorse, and commit to doing better. Can I actually say those things? That's the question, isn't it? Marcus stared at the wall. His sister's wall. The wall he had been staring at for 2 weeks while his life fell apart. What if I actually mean it? What do you mean? What if I'm not just saying it because they're forcing me to? What if I actually look at what I did and feel genuine remorse? Then the apology would be easier to write. It's not about easy, it's about... Marcus trailed off. About what? I keep seeing her face. Maya Richardson. The moment the soda hit her, the look in her eyes. It wasn't just shock or anger, it was recognition. Like she'd seen that look before. Like she knew exactly what I was doing to her because people had done it to her 1,000 times. Marcus, I did that. I made her feel that way. I made her feel like she was less than human in front of all those people, and I laughed about it. Does this mean you want to accept the offer? It means I want to accept the offer and actually mean the apology, not because they're making me because I owe it to her. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. That's actually admirable, Marcus. It's not admirable. It's the bare minimum. It's what I should have done from the beginning. Well, whatever it is, it's progress. I'll let them know you're accepting the offer. Thank you. And Marcus, yeah, the community service. 500 hours is a lot of time. You're going to learn things, meet people, see perspectives you've never seen before. If you go into it with an open mind, it might actually change you. That's the idea. Good luck. Marcus hung up. Then he started writing his apology. 6:33 in the evening. Daniel Crawford found Maya in their home office staring out the window at the city lights. How was the hearing? Exhausting, but I think it went well. I watched some of it. You were incredible. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. Maya turned to face him. Marcus Webb is accepting the settlement. I know. Stephen called me. How do you feel about that? Daniel considered the question. Relieved, angry, unsatisfied. Unsatisfied. Part of me wanted him to fight, wanted to drag him through the courts and expose every ugly thing he's ever said or done, wanted to destroy him completely. And now I'm trying to figure out if that desire was about justice or revenge. Maya walked over to him, put her hand on his cheek. It's okay to want revenge. After what he did to me, you're entitled to that. But revenge doesn't heal anything. It just creates more pain. So what does heal? I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. Daniel pulled her close. We'll figure it out together. I know. They stood there holding each other, two people trying to find their way through something neither of them had ever faced before. 8:14 in the evening. Jennifer Chang was still at her desk at 8:14 when her phone rang. She did not recognize the number. Hello, is this Jennifer Chang? Yes, who is this? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I work at Nexus Technologies. I saw the news about what happened at Sterling Tech, about what you're doing there. What about it? I'm calling because something similar happened at my company. Not as extreme, but the same pattern. Discrimination, harassment, management looking the other way. I'm sorry to hear that. Have you reported it? I tried. HR said they would investigate. That was 6 months ago. Nothing has changed. What are you hoping I can do? I don't know. I saw you at the press conference, standing next to Maya Richardson, and I thought there's someone who actually cares. Someone who's actually trying to make things better. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I can't help you directly. I don't work for your company. I know. But I can tell you what I've learned. The only way things change is when people speak up, not alone, together. You need to find others at your company who feel the same way you do. Build a coalition, document everything, and then present your case in a way that the company can't ignore. What if they fire us? Then you sue, and you go public, and you make them wish they had listened when they had the chance. That's terrifying. I know, I was terrified too, but I spoke up anyway, and because I did, I'm in a position to actually make a difference now. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but it's worth it, trust me. There was a long pause. Thank you, Jennifer, for talking to me. Thank you for calling. And Sarah. Yes, you're not alone. There are people out there who will support you. You just have to find them. I'll try. That's all any of us can do. Jennifer hung up. Then she sat there staring at her phone, thinking about all the Sarahs out there. All the people suffering in silence, waiting for someone to give them permission to speak up. She could not help them all, but she could help some. And some was better than none. 9:47 in the evening. Patricia Morrison finished reviewing Jennifer's proposal at 9:47. She read it twice. Then she called Jennifer. This is good work? Thank you. No, I mean it's really good. The Ally Network idea, the intervention training, the protected reporting channels, this could actually change things. That's the idea. I'm presenting it to Daniel tomorrow. I think he'll approve it. What about the budget? We'll find the money. Some things are worth investing in. Patricia. Yes. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. How do you do this? How do you keep fighting year after year knowing that progress is slow and setbacks are common and most people don't really want to change? Patricia was quiet for a moment. Because the alternative is worse. Because giving up means letting the Marcus Webbs of the world win. Because every small victory matters even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. Does it ever get easier? No, but you get stronger. I don't feel strong, I feel exhausted. That's how you know you're doing it right. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Jennifer laughed despite herself. That's either very inspiring or very depressing. Probably both. Now go home. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start the real work. Yes, ma'am. Jennifer hung up, gathered her things, and headed for the elevator. The building was quiet at this hour. Most employees had gone home hours ago, but she knew she was not alone. Patricia was still here. Daniel was probably still in his office. Others too working late because they believed in what they were trying to build. It was not much, but it was a start, and sometimes a start was everything. 10:33 in the evening. Maya Richardson could not sleep. She lay in bed next to Daniel listening to his breathing, thinking about everything that had happened over the past 3 weeks. The lobby, the soda, the laughter, the press conference, the Senate hearing, the endless interviews, the apology from Brittany Cole, which had seemed genuine, the upcoming apology from Marcus Webb, which might or might not be, the changes happening at Sterling Tech, the calls for reform, the movement that had grown up around her story. She had become a symbol, a rallying point, a name that people invoked when they talked about discrimination and injustice. She had not asked for any of it, but she could not deny its power. Maybe she thought this was how change happened, not through grand gestures or sweeping legislation, but through individual stories. Through people seeing themselves in someone else's pain and deciding they would not tolerate it anymore. She had told her story. Others were telling theirs. And slowly, gradually, the world was paying attention. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Maya closed her eyes. For the first time in 3 weeks, she slept without nightmares. 11:59 in the evening. Marcus Webb finished his apology at 11:59. It was 3 pages long, handwritten, every word chosen carefully. He did not make excuses, did not minimize what he had done, did not blame his upbringing or his environment or the people around him. He took full responsibility, acknowledged the racism in his actions and his words, expressed genuine remorse for the pain he had caused, and he committed to spending the rest of his life trying to be better. He did not know if Maya Richardson would ever read it, did not know if it would make any difference to her. But it made a difference to him. For the first time since that morning in the lobby, Marcus Webb felt something other than shame. He felt hope. Not hope that he would be forgiven. He did not deserve forgiveness, might never deserve it. But hope that he could become someone who would not do what he had done, someone who would see a person like Maya Richardson and recognize her humanity instead of denying it, someone his mother could be proud of again. It was a long road. 500 hours of community service was just the beginning, but everyone had to start somewhere. Marcus folded the apology, put it in an envelope, and set it on his nightstand. Tomorrow he would send it. Tonight he would sleep, and for the first time in 3 weeks, he did not dream of soda and laughter and a woman's face covered in his cruelty. He dreamed of second chances. 3 months later, Monday morning, 7:48. The Sterling Tech lobby looked the same as it had before. Marble floors, glass walls, chrome fixtures gleaming under soft lighting. But everything had changed. Maya Richardson walked through the front doors at 7:48 carrying 2 cups of coffee. She was not here to surprise her husband this time. She was here for a meeting. The new receptionist, a young black woman named Keisha Williams, looked up with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Richardson. Mr. Crawford is expecting you in conference room A." "Thank you, Keisha. How's the new job treating you?" "Honestly, best job I've ever had. The training was intense, but it made me feel prepared, like they actually care about doing things right." Maya smiled. "They do, more than you know." She walked past the reception desk, past the spot where she had stood 3 months ago, covered in soda, past the memories that still haunted her when she let them. The elevator doors opened. Jennifer Chang stepped out. "Maya, I was hoping I'd catch you." "Jennifer, how are you?" "Busy, good busy. We just finished rolling out the Ally Network program to all departments. 230 employees signed up in the first week. That's incredible. It's a start. We're also launching the intervention training next month. Terrence has been working on the curriculum. It's really good. I'm proud of what you're building here." Jennifer's expression softened. "I couldn't have done any of it without you, your courage that day, the way you spoke out afterward. You gave people permission to believe that change was possible." Maya squeezed her arm. "You're the one doing the hard work. I just told my story." Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. The elevator arrived. Maya stepped in. "See you at the meeting?" "Wouldn't miss it." The doors closed. 8:23 in the morning. The quarterly Diversity and Inclusion Review was held in Conference Room A, the largest meeting space in the building. Every department head attended. Daniel sat at the head of the table with Maya beside him in an advisory capacity. Patricia Morrison presented the data. In the 3 months since we implemented the new protocols, discrimination complaints are down 42%. Employee satisfaction scores are up 17%. Voluntary turnover in underrepresented groups has dropped by 31%. Murmurs of approval around the table. More importantly, the complaints we do receive are being handled differently. Average resolution time has gone from 63 days to 11 days. Employee satisfaction with the resolution process has increased from 23% to 78%. Daniel leaned forward. What about the Ally Network? Jennifer took over. 230 participants as of last Friday. We've had 14 interventions in the past month. 14 times an employee witnessed something inappropriate and spoke up. In every case, the situation was resolved before it could escalate. Any negative feedback? Some. A few employees feel like they're being watched. Others think the training is too intense. But the majority response has been positive. People want to work in a place where they feel safe, where they know someone has their back. Terrence Brooks spoke up. From a security perspective, we've completely overhauled our protocols. Every guard has completed bias training. Every incident is documented and reviewed. We've also implemented a verification system for visitors that doesn't rely on subjective judgment. What does that mean in practice? It means that when someone walks into this lobby, they're treated with respect regardless of how they look. They're given the benefit of the doubt. Their identity is verified through proper channels, not through assumptions. Daniel nodded. Good. What about the legal situation? Stephen Walsh took the floor. All pending matters have been resolved. Brittany Cole completed her community service and has relocated to another state. Ryan Peters reached a settlement that included a confidentiality agreement. Marcus Webb. He paused. Marcus Webb is a more complicated story. 9:11 in the morning. Marcus Webb was 3 months into his community service when everything changed. He had been assigned to the Harlem Community Center working with at-risk youth. 500 hours. At first, he had resented every minute, had seen it as punishment, not opportunity, had gone through the motions while counting down the days until he was free. Then he met James. James was 14 years old, black, brilliant, and angry at the world. He reminded Marcus of himself at that age, full of potential but also full of rage that had no healthy outlet. They had been paired together for a mentorship program. Marcus was supposed to help James with his homework, teach him about career opportunities, be a positive influence. Instead, James taught Marcus. You're the guy from the video, right? The one who threw the drink on that lady. Marcus had frozen. How did you know? Everyone knows. You're famous, or infamous, I guess. Does that bother you? James had shrugged. I don't know. Does it bother you? Every day. Good. It should. That was the beginning. Over the next 3 months, Marcus learned more about racism from James than he had learned in his entire life. He heard stories about being followed in stores, about teachers who assumed he would fail, about police encounters that could have ended very differently. He learned what it felt like to be judged before you opened your mouth, to be dismissed before you had a chance to prove yourself, to know that no matter what you accomplished, some people would always see you as less. And slowly, painfully, he began to understand what he had done to Maya Richardson. Not just the drink, not just the words, but the centuries of history that his actions had invoked. The message he had sent with every laugh, every sneer, every assumption. You don't belong here. You're not one of us. You're less. He had not invented that message, but he had delivered it, had made it personal, had taken all of that accumulated pain and poured it over a woman's head in front of dozens of witnesses. And now he had to figure out how to live with it. 10:37 in the morning. Maya Richardson received a letter. It arrived at her law office hand-delivered no return address. Her assistant brought it in with a puzzled expression. This just came for you. The delivery person said it was important. Maya opened it. The handwriting was careful, deliberate. Every word chosen with obvious effort. Dear Ms. Richardson, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to respond. I don't even expect you to forgive me. What I did to you was unforgivable. But I need you to know that I'm trying to change. 3 months ago, I poured a drink on your head because I couldn't accept that someone who looked like you could belong in the same spaces I occupied. I didn't see you as a person. I saw you as a threat, as someone who didn't deserve the same respect and dignity that I automatically granted to people who looked like me. I was wrong. I was so deeply, fundamentally wrong that I don't have words to express the depth of my shame. I've spent the past 3 months working at a community center in Harlem. I've met people who have experienced what I did to you every day of their lives. Not always as dramatically, but just as painfully. And I've started to understand in a way I never did before the weight of what I carry as a white man in this country. The privileges I take for granted. The assumptions I make without even realizing it. I can't undo what I did. I can't take back those words, or that drink, or the way I made you feel. But I can spend the rest of my life trying to be better. Trying to see people as individuals, not stereotypes. trying to extend the benefit of the doubt that I've received my whole life to people who have never received it at all. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that your pain mattered, that it changed something in me, that you didn't suffer for nothing. With deepest regret and growing understanding, Marcus Webb. Maya read the letter 3 times. Then she set it down on her desk and cried. Not tears of pain or anger or humiliation. Tears of something more complicated. Something that felt almost like hope. 11:54 in the morning. Daniel found Maya in her office at 11:54. Her eyes were red. The letter was still on her desk. What's wrong? She handed him the letter. He read it. His expression shifted from concern to surprise to something she could not quite identify. Do you believe him? I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter? Maya considered the question. I think it does. Not for him. For me. What do you mean? For 3 months I've been carrying around this anger, this hatred. Every time I thought about Marcus Webb, I felt it all over again. The soda, the laughter, the humiliation. It was like he had taken up permanent residence in my head, and I couldn't evict him. That's understandable. But reading this letter, I felt something else. I felt like maybe, just maybe, what happened to me actually meant something. Like it wasn't just random cruelty. Like it could be the beginning of something instead of just an ending. You think he's changed? I think he's trying to change. Whether he succeeds is up to him, but the fact that he's trying, that matters. Daniel sat down across from her. What do you want to do? I don't know. I'm not ready to forgive him. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, but I think I can stop hating him. I think I can let go of some of this weight I've been carrying. Is that enough? I think it has to be, because carrying hatred is exhausting, and I have better things to do with my energy. Daniel reached across the desk and took her hand. I love you. I love you too. And I'm proud of you. For what? For being strong enough to consider forgiveness, for being brave enough to keep fighting, for being human enough to admit when you're tired. Maya squeezed his hand. I'm tired, Daniel. I'm so tired. Then rest. You've earned it. I can't rest. There's too much work to do. The work will still be there tomorrow. Today you need to take care of yourself. Maya looked at the letter on her desk, at the words of a man who had caused her so much pain, at the possibility of redemption, however fragile. Okay, she said finally. Let's go home. 1:28 in the afternoon. Jennifer Chang received a call from Sarah Mitchell at 1:28. Jennifer, it's Sarah, from Nexus Technologies. Sarah, how are you? What happened with your situation? That's why I'm calling. We did it. We built a coalition. 12 of us. We documented everything. We presented our case to the board. And they fired the CEO. Jennifer almost dropped her phone. What? The CEO, the one who had been protecting the harassers. The board reviewed our evidence and terminated him on the spot. They're bringing in someone new, someone with a track record of actually caring about these issues. Sarah, that's incredible. It wouldn't have happened without you, without your advice, without knowing that someone else had done it and survived. You did this, you and your colleagues. You took the risk. We took the risk together. That's what you told me. That's what made it possible. Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of us, all of us, everyone who's fighting this fight wherever they are. What's next for you? They offered me a position on the new diversity committee. I said yes. Of course you did. I want to build something like what you're building at Sterling Tech, a real system, a real culture of accountability. Call me anytime. I'll help however I can. Thank you, Jennifer, for everything. The line went dead. Jennifer sat at her desk phone, still in her hand, thinking about ripples. A stone drops into a pond. The ripples spread outward, touching shores the stone never imagined. Maya Richardson had dropped a stone 3 months ago. It had touched Jennifer. Jennifer had touched Sarah. Sarah had touched 12 colleagues. Those colleagues had touched a boardroom. And now, somewhere in another city, another company was changing. That was how movements grew. Not through grand gestures, but through small acts of courage that inspired other small acts of courage, each one building on the last until the accumulated weight of them became unstoppable. Jennifer picked up her phone and called Terrence. We need to document this. Sarah Mitchell at Nexus Technologies. Her story should be part of our training materials. What happened? She changed her company because we helped her believe she could. That's amazing. That's what this is all about, not just fixing Sterling Tech, teaching other people how to fix their own organizations. A blueprint for change. Exactly. Let's start writing it. 2:43 in the afternoon. Patricia Morrison called an emergency meeting at 2:43. The senior staff gathered quickly, concerned expressions on their faces. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. Patricia held up her tablet. "We just received word that 3 other companies have reached out asking for copies of our diversity protocols. They want to implement similar programs." 3 companies. "So far, I'm expecting more." Jennifer spoke up. "I got a call today from someone at Nexus Technologies. They just fired their CEO over discrimination issues. She said our example inspired them to take action." "That's 4. "And it's only going to grow," Patricia said. "The incident with Maya, as terrible as it was, started a conversation. Companies are looking at their own cultures and realizing they have similar problems. They want solutions. They're looking to us." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "What do you recommend?" "I think we should create a formal consulting arm. Package our programs and protocols into something other companies can license. Train their people the way we've trained ours." That's a significant undertaking. It's also a significant opportunity, not just for revenue, but for impact. If we can help 10 companies, 20 companies, 50 companies implement real change, the ripple effect would be enormous. Stephen Walsh spoke up. "From a legal perspective, we'd need to be careful about liability. If we train another company and they still have an incident, we can address that in the contracts. The point isn't to guarantee perfection. The point is to give people the tools to do better." Daniel looked around the table. "What does everyone think?" Jennifer raised her hand. "I think it's exactly what we should be doing. We learned hard lessons. We should share them." Terrence nodded. "Agreed. This isn't just about protecting ourselves anymore. It's about protecting everyone." One by one, the other executives voiced their support. Daniel turned to Patricia. "Make it happen." "Yes, sir." 4:18 in the afternoon. Maya Richardson testified before Congress for the second time at 4:18. This time, she was not just a victim sharing her story. She was an expert witness, presenting data on the effectiveness of corporate diversity initiatives. In the 3 months since Sterling Tech implemented its new protocols, discrimination complaints have dropped by 42%. Similar results have been reported at other companies that have adopted comparable programs. Senator Williams nodded. "And what do you attribute this success to?" 3 things. First, accountability. People who engage in discriminatory behavior face real consequences. Not warnings, not retraining, but termination. Second, support systems. Employees who witness inappropriate behavior have multiple channels to report it, and they know they'll be protected if they speak up. Third, cultural change. We're not just punishing bad behavior, we're teaching people why it's bad. We're helping them understand the impact of their words and actions on others. Some critics argue that these programs are excessive, that they create a climate of fear where employees are afraid to say anything. With respect, Senator, that criticism misses the point. Employees aren't afraid to say anything. They're afraid to say racist, sexist, or discriminatory things. And frankly, they should be. Words have consequences. Actions have consequences. That's not creating a climate of fear. That's creating a climate of accountability. What would you say to companies that are hesitant to implement these kinds of programs? Maya leaned into the microphone. "I would say that the cost of doing nothing is higher than the cost of doing something. Every company that tolerates discrimination is losing talented employees who don't feel safe. Every company that ignores harassment is opening itself up to lawsuits and reputational damage. Every company that fails to address these issues is contributing to a culture that hurts all of us." She paused. "But more than that, I would say that this is a matter of basic human decency. Every person who walks through your doors deserves to be treated with respect. Every employee deserves to feel valued for their contributions, not judged for their appearance. Every human being deserves dignity." Is that too much to ask? The gallery was silent. Senator Williams nodded slowly. "Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Your testimony has been invaluable." Thank you for listening. 5:47 in the evening. Marcus Webb completed his community service on a Tuesday afternoon at 5:47. 500 hours. 14 months. Countless conversations, lessons, and realizations. He stood in the gymnasium of the Harlem Community Center surrounded by the kids he had been working with. James was there, taller now, less angry, more focused. "So you're really leaving?" James asked. My official hours are done, but I'm not leaving. I've applied for a staff position. For real. For real. This place, these people, you've all taught me more than I ever learned in my whole life before. I want to keep learning. James grinned. That's cool, man. That's really cool. And I want to keep teaching, or trying to anyway. I've got a lot of mistakes to make up for. You can't make up for mistakes. You can only do better going forward. Marcus looked at this 14-year-old kid who was somehow wiser than he had ever been. When did you get so smart? Born this way, you're the one who's slow. They both laughed. The director of the community center, a woman named Denise Parker, approached them. Marcus, I have some news about your application. His stomach tightened. Yeah. We reviewed it carefully, considered everything, your background, your history, your performance over the past 14 months. And how? She smiled. Welcome to the team. Marcus felt tears spring to his eye. Thank you so much. Thank me by doing the work. These kids deserve the best we can give them. I will, I promise. James punched his arm. Guess you're stuck with us now. Guess I am. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Webb felt like he was exactly where he belonged. 7:29 in the evening. Daniel and Maya Crawford celebrated their 8-year wedding anniversary at 7:29. Not with a fancy dinner or an expensive trip, with takeout Thai food in Daniel's office just like the day everything fell apart, just like the day everything started to change. 1 year, Maya said, lifting her plastic cup of water. 1 year since the lobby. 1 year? Daniel echoed. It feels longer. It feels like a lifetime. So much has changed. So much more still needs to change. Maya set down her cup. Are you happy with what we've accomplished? Daniel considered the question. Happy isn't the right word. Satisfied, maybe. We've built something real, something that's helping people. But I keep thinking about all the companies we haven't reached, all the people who are going through what you went through right now somewhere and we can't help them. We can't save everyone. I know, but I want to try. Maya reached across the desk and took his hand. That's why I love you, because you never stop trying. That's why I love you, because you never let me give up. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Maya spoke. I got another letter from Marcus Webb. Daniel looked up. What did it say? He got a job at the community center, permanent position. He's going to keep working with the kids. How do you feel about that? I feel okay, maybe even good. He's not the same person who poured that drink on me. He's becoming someone else. Someone better. Do you forgive him? Maya thought about it. Really thought about it. I think I'm getting there. Not forgiveness like it never happened, but forgiveness like, I'm not going to let it define me anymore. I'm not going to carry his actions around with me for the rest of my life. That sounds healthy. It feels healthy. For the first time in a year, I feel like I can breathe. Daniel stood up, walked around the desk, and pulled her into his arms. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of us. Happy anniversary, Maya. Happy anniversary, Daniel. Outside the windows, the city lights glittered like stars. Inside the office, two people held each other and thought about everything they had been through, everything they had built, everything that still lay ahead. It had been the worst year of their lives. It had also been the most meaningful, and they would not trade a single moment of it. 9:14 in the evening. Jennifer Chang gave her final report of the year at 9:14. The all-hands meeting was held in the main lobby of Sterling Tech. Every employee in the building gathered around the same spot where Maya Richardson had stood 1 year ago, covered in soda, surrounded by people who had failed her. 1 year ago, something terrible happened in this lobby, Jennifer began. A woman was assaulted and humiliated because of the color of her skin. 30 people watched. One person tried to help. She paused. Today, we're a different company. Not because we're perfect. We're not. But because we're trying. Because we've built systems that hold us accountable. Because we've created a culture where speaking up is valued, not punished. She looked around at the faces of her colleagues. In the past year, we've had 47 interventions. 47 times an employee saw something wrong and said something. 47 times a situation was resolved before it could escalate. 47 times someone was protected because someone else had the courage to act. Applause rippled through the crowd. But I want to be clear about something. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. The work we're doing in here, the culture we're building, it has to be maintained. Every day, every interaction, every decision. She pointed to the spot on the marble floor where Maya had stood. We can never forget what happened here. We can never let ourselves believe that we've solved the problem, that we've done enough, that we can stop trying. Because the moment we stop trying is the moment we start failing again. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, but I'm more proud of what we're going to accomplish. Together. As a community that refuses to tolerate cruelty, that demands accountability, that believes every person who walks through these doors deserves dignity. That's who we are now, and that's who we're going to keep being. The applause that followed was not polite, it was thunderous. Jennifer stepped back from the podium. Daniel Crawford took her place. 1 year ago, I failed my wife. I failed this company. I built something I was proud of, and I didn't realize it was broken until the damage was done. He looked at Maya, standing at the edge of the crowd. But failures can be teachers, if you let them, if you're willing to learn. And over the past year, I've learned more about leadership, about accountability, about what it really means to build something good than I learned in the entire decade before. Maya taught me that speaking up matters even when it's hard. Jennifer taught me that trying matters even when you fail. Patricia taught me that systems matter even when people resist them. Terrence taught me that redemption matters even when it seems impossible. He paused. And all of you taught me that change is possible, that people can grow, that organizations can evolve, that the worst moments can become the foundation for the best moments if we have the courage to build on them. Thank you for this year. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for believing that we could do better. Now let's prove that we can. 10:48 in the evening. Maya Richardson stood in the Sterling Tech lobby alone. The all-hands meeting had ended. The employees had gone home. Daniel was upstairs finishing some paperwork before they left for the night. She stood on the exact spot where she had stood 1 year ago, where the soda had hit her, where her world had shattered and then slowly, painfully begun to rebuild itself. The marble had been cleaned countless times since then. There was no trace of what had happened, no stain, no mark, no evidence. But she could still feel it, could still remember the cold, the shock, the humiliation, and underneath all of that, she could feel something else. Strength. She had survived. More than survived. She had transformed her pain into purpose, had helped build something that would outlast her, had changed minds and hearts and systems and laws. She was not the same woman who had walked through those doors 1 year ago. She was stronger, wiser, more determined than ever, and she was not done. Footsteps behind her. Daniel appeared, coat over his arm, ready to go. Maya looked around the lobby one last time. Yeah, she said, I'm ready. They walked toward the glass doors together. Any regrets? Daniel asked. About what? About any of it? Speaking out? Going public? Becoming a symbol? Maya considered the question. No regrets. I wish it hadn't happened the way it did. I wish I hadn't had to suffer to make a point. But if my suffering helped even one other person avoid what I went through, then it meant something. And meaning is all any of us can hope for. They stepped outside into the cool night air. What now? Daniel asked. Maya smiled. Now we keep going. Keep building, keep fighting, keep trying. Forever, for as long as it takes. Daniel took her hand. Then let's get started. They walked away together, leaving the building behind them, leaving the lobby where everything had changed, leaving the past and walking toward the future. The story of Maya Richardson did not end that night. It continued day after day, year after year, in the work she did and the lives she touched and the systems she helped create. The story of Sterling Tech did not end either. It continued in every employee who spoke up, every intervention that prevented harm, every policy that protected the vulnerable. The story of Marcus Webb continued too. He never stopped working at the community center, never stopped trying to be better, never forgot what he had done or why it mattered that he do better. And the story of change, the slow, painful, beautiful story of a world becoming more just, more kind, more human, that story continued as well. It continues still. Every time someone speaks up, every time someone intervenes, every time someone chooses courage over comfort, accountability over apathy, action over silence, that is how the world changes. One person at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time. Maya Richardson learned that lesson on the worst day of her life, and she spent the rest of her life teaching it to others. Because dignity is not a privilege, it is a right. Because silence is not neutrality, it is complicity. Because change is not impossible, it is inevitable. All it takes is someone brave enough to start.